Nationwide has strategies built to help you save time.
It's a game changer.
Their timely market insights help simplify conversations with your clients. But sometimes actions speak louder than words.
Crushed it.
Own the thing. Behind the thing. Behind the next big thing. Invest in the backbone of the global economy. Brookfield. Own what's next.
Fidelity active ETFs can shift and transform as markets do the same. They can cast a wide net, explore and uncover new opportunities, adapt to risk, and leverage the full power of fund managers and research teams to pursue outperformance. Markets can change in real time. Make sure your ETF can too.
I'm Ultima Morgan. Morgan & Morgan isn't just an injury firm. It's our family's life work. $30 billion recovered is something I'm proud of. But what I'm really proud of are the families we stood beside. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Our world is undergoing profound changes and facing new shocks. This spring, 191 countries come together to discuss the future of the global economy and shape policies and solutions that work for all. Join the conversation.
This spring, Bloomberg House arrives in Miami, set against one of the world's most electrifying sporting stages, where business, investment, and culture converge, and where the future of sports, media, and technology comes into focus. Experience Bloomberg journalism come to life, powered by real-time data and the conversations shaping what's next. Bloomberg House Miami, April 29th and 30th. Connect with context.
Cat time, treat time, anytime.
From the world of politics to the world of business, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines deliver news, insight, and analysis live 2 times a day, every trading day. Balance of Power at 1 and 5 Eastern, only on Bloomberg.
Bringing you the world's business and financial news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Michael McKee at Mount Everest. This is Bloomberg.
Every 1 day of service disruption, it takes about 3 days to catch up. Now we're looking at about 4.5 months with respect to the Strait of Hormuz to get all these ships, container, tanker, bulk, back into normal rotations. Once the strait is open, there's a lot of work to do in the supply chain.
Real physical disruption, this market's looking through it. That was the Port of Los Angeles Executive Director, Gene Soroka. This market, the gains continue. Up 0.25% on the S&P 500. The run continues on the NASDAQ. 9-day winning streak on the NASDAQ 100, the longest since September 25. You make it day 10, the longest since November 2021. The NASDAQ this morning, up by 0.5%. Let's get you some morning movers. Yahira has more. Hey, Yahira.
Hi, John. One of the biggest airline deals ever could be on the table. We're reporting that United CEO Scott Kirby has floated the idea of a potential merger with American, that he's talked to senior government officials about this. So you are seeing American up 8.5% in the pre-market, even though any deal would, of course, face intense antitrust scrutiny. And it's official, Amazon agreeing to buy the satellite firm Globalstar in an $11.6 billion deal as it tries to compete with SpaceX and its massive Starlink network. So you are seeing shares of Globalstar up 11% in the pre-market. The deal is expected to close.
Hello, my name is DrPaulCottrell, and we are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for joining. We're also simulcasting on X Spaces. If you want the mic, just ask for the mic. type in your questions if you have any questions. This is a live stream of the markets for the morning session. I greatly appreciate if you help support the work that I do by donating on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All of these videos are for free. I have thousands of videos covering the news and how to improve your health and how to manage the tumultuous times in the financial market. So please help support the work. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. I have lots of products on my store. You can also purchase great supplements. I have ebooks and course material on immunology and pulmonology. So if you would, please share the links. Ask your social media to follow me. You can follow me on many different types of modalities. You can follow me on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. You can follow me also on TikTok, Substack, Patreon, X, and GETTR. So please share the links, subscribe, and help support the work that I do. All right, so CPI, which was a couple trading set, what was yesterday, I think. No, was it Friday? I think it was Friday. Might have been Friday. But CPI data that came out was a little bit hotter than expected. But PPI data that came out today was a little bit lower. So it's interesting how consumer prices are a little bit higher, but producer price index is a little bit lower than expected. So basically, inflationary pressures are going down at the manufacturing level, the producer level, but inflationary pressures are still there for the consumer level. Now, what is interesting is that when you take out energy for the consumer, for CPI, actually there's a slight drop, about 0.1% for core CPI. So you're taking out energy, you're taking out food. So there is a little bit of a stress because of energy costs are higher for the consumer. It doesn't seem to be affecting the producer yet, which I find is an interesting dynamic. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost has 68 nutrients. It's going to help to target multiple systems. You're going to be able to target your musculature, your cardiovascular health, your brain function, bring up your energy levels, rev up your metabolism, help with your immune system and your endocrine system. This is a great supplement to help slow down the aging process. Take it every day. It's a month's supply. It's really important to take. If you have chronic headaches, you'll notice that your headaches are diminished in terms of frequency and in terms of magnitude. So you get a lot of benefits from taking the Boomer Boost. And over time, what's going to happen is that your whole body is going into homeostasis. Your whole body is getting healthier. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more vitality, and you're going to be aging slower. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is really important to take every day. It has a very comprehensive compound profile here. It's a powder. You mix it with soft foods, filtered water, a smoothie, or even with milk. I mix it with hummus, but you can mix it also with, let's say, applesauce or yogurt. It's a great way to get healthy. And it's relatively inexpensive as a supplement to take every day. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Make sure you use discount 5. I want you to save some money. You know, CPI is higher, you know, so you need to save money, right? So that was a joke. So please go to my store, use discount 5. It's all caps, discount 5, number 5. Click the link in the description to get to my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Evan, we spent so much time talking about the Federal Reserve. Just how relevant is the Federal Reserve to your outlook?
I think the biggest shock, if you will, Jonathan, to our glass half full perspective would be an outsized move higher in interest rates. That doesn't seem to be something, at least the front of the curve, we're not as concerned about that. We're more concerned about what some of your other guests have talked about in terms of what happens with budget deficits, what happens with the back of the curve. We're in year 19 of the 10-year Treasury yield being below 5%. We've become accustomed, if anything, we've become incredibly desensitized to interest rate volatility. So the Fed, with respect to front of the curve, not really a big concern for us. We're more concerned about was there upside risk, if you will, if for example, the administration decides to get very aggressive with pro-growth policies that the bond market rejects. That would be more concerning to us than what the Fed may have to offer on a next couple of meetings basis.
Eric, it's good to see you. It's always good to catch up, sir. Thank you. Eric Friedman there of Northern Trust Wealth Management on the Federal Reserve, the front end of the curve there. You can see on the screen, 380. Anchored around where Fed funds is right now at about 377, 380. This is a Fed that's not going to do anything anytime soon. As a market as well priced for it at the moment, at least on a 2-year yield. Looking at the situation in the Middle East, just how is the blockade holding up? Is it being tested? We were tracking one particular ship. What's the latest?
Yeah, this was a U.S. sanctioned tanker linked to China, and it seems that it has made a U-turn. So everyone was talking about the fact that this is going to be a huge test of the blockade. Does the blockade allow this sanctioned Chinese vessel through? And it looks like it's a no. And it U-turned, so not being able to make that journey out of the strait.
The potential for escalation avoided, at least for now. On top of what we've seen over the last week, Bremo, the market rally continues. You talked about it earlier. This market's moved on very quickly over the last week. The prospect of more talks encouraging this market to move on even quicker.
The fact that we had a blockade announced on Sunday or Saturday, and that Sunday night people came in, and I thought, wow, it's going to be a bloodbath. No, not at all. Actually, the end of the day higher yesterday. We're really close to where we were. We actually surpassed. We took out all the losses since the war began. It gives you a sense of where people's minds are at. This morning, just adding to that, the fact that there are reports that Iran doesn't want to escalate things. They're going to avoid trying to even have any ships U-turn to just avoid the conflict. And the fact, okay, U-turning, but at least there's nothing violent that's happening as a result of it. So people are looking at this and saying, next, earnings, let's hear it.
Minds are firmly on the future, on the summer, a touch of summer in the air. In New York City, into the 80s later, with a splash of summer, right?
I'm actually very angry about this. I would like spring to be spring. I don't want it to be 85 and humid, but you're right. People are just looking to
I'll take the 85.
I know.
Yeah, and you're complaining about the aircon. Interesting. Okay. Let's see how comfortable you are. Let's make it 85 and humid in the studio. And we'll see if you're happy with that.
There's a happy medium. It doesn't need to be 64.
Okay. We can continue having this back and forth. Just a moment. I look forward to it. All right. Coming up tomorrow. I'm really done. Noam Dixon of State Street joined us. David George of Baird. Phil Camporelli of JP Morgan. And Fuji Sriram of Barclays from New York City this morning. Thank you for choosing Bloomberg TV. This was Bloomberg Surveillance.
Nationwide.
Okay, so the next video that we're going to go over is the currency collapse. This adds a new economic pressure on Iran, says ex-energy secretary.
We're going to move right along. Welcome back to the show. Dan Brighteon, former U.S. Energy Secretary, and Steve Moore, host of More Money on WABC Radio. Dan Brighteon, how long before we starve them out? And, I went through some numbers. The potential losses from the blockade, they're bigger. They're 50% bigger than Iran's entire budget. Now, I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know what these numbers mean exactly, but they're pretty big numbers. And after a week or two, they're going to have to, top out their oil storage facility. They're going to have to shut down the nuts and the bolts. That's going to create great damage to their oil reservoir. I mean, maybe economic and financial war is going to be the final coup de grace here, Dan Brighteon.
It very well could be, Larry. And I think the numbers you articulated earlier, roughly $400 million or so in oil exports, don't even begin to touch what they're importing from around the world as well. So we have to calculate that as well. When the president announced that he was going to blockade or block the Straits of Hormuz, that traffic goes both ways, both export and import. So we'll have to wait and see what that does to the Iranian economy. But I was looking at a few numbers today. It could very well accelerate the financial crisis related to their currency. I saw some stories today that banks are starting to limit withdrawals to somewhere between $18 and $30 a day. If that's true, and we're looking at inflation in Iran topping 50%, we could see a currency collapse very, very quickly. And that adds, again, a new level of economic pressure to Iran.
Now, Steve, one of the other side of the coin is what's that do to the American economy? So I will posit, first of all, the CPI inflation report we got Friday, really outside of the energy in the war, was very benign. So that's not the problem. Financial markets have reacted relatively well. I mean, today, actually, the stocks are up a little bit. Oil popped up. It's hovering, I'll call it $100 a barrel, okay? But basically, there's no new catastrophe here, but it may take longer. Financial, budgetary bankruptcy and starvation may take longer with oil and gasoline at these levels, Steve. So what's your take on the impact for the American economy?
Well, first of all, I think, Larry, the most important thing is that the markets are just so hungry, thirsty for good news about Iran, which is going to come. It's going to come. I don't know if it's going to come in 3 days or 5 days or in the next few weeks, but it is coming. Trump will win. And when he does, you're going to see an explosion. You're going to see the most joyous rally you ever saw in the market when that day comes. And again, whether it's 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, I don't know, but it will come.
As we are live streaming, the futures market for the S&P 500 is at 6,938. All right? If you followed my advice that I've been saying since the United States got into this whole war with Iran, and you purchased equities, you would have made money. And I kept on saying to do it. But I also told you tactically how to trade the energy markets too, which is not easy to do. But just by buying into a broad index like the S&P 500 or Russell's or the Dow index or, you know, something that's broad-based, you would have made money. While everyone was saying it was going to be the end of the world and that it was going to be an apocalypse. And I said, don't bet against the United States. Never, ever bet against the United States. Now, why does DrPaulCottrell say this? J.P. Morgan in the late 1800s and early 1900s stated that when there was, you know, financial turmoil and the trusts were starting to go out of business, and there wasn't great regulation that was taking place. This is before the Federal Reserve came into fruition. All right. JP Morgan basically said, don't bet against the United States, ever. And it's the same as now. Don't bet against the United States. All these pundits that say that, oh, you got to go into cash and the dollar's going to weaken and or you have to move into Europe or all that. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Never bet against the United States. So, just to make my point extremely clear, all right? The market, broad-based S&P 500, was around 6,500. It is now trading at 6,900 and futures 38. So let's just go 6,900. All right? It appreciated since the war, 400 points. That's a 6% return in 5 weeks of your new deployed capital. All right? Just pay attention to me, you'll make money. If you pay attention to me, you'll slow down the aging process and be healthy. It's that simple. That's all you got to do. You don't even have to think. All you got to do is just listen.
And that will solve so many problems. You will also see, in my opinion, and the Secretary is more of an expert on this than I am, But I think you could see that oil price, which is now hovering around 100. I think you should see it right back to about $70 a barrel within a matter of weeks. And so this is really just a very temporary situation with so many of the other things in the economy going right. And remember, at the start of the year, you and I, Larry, said we were going to see a blockbuster 2026, and I still believe the second half of this year, because of tax cuts and other things, could be exactly that.
Dan Brighteon, I don't want to be too optimistic or too pessimistic, because I think longer term, Steve Moore is going to be exactly right. But it just strikes me that this thing could last longer. And I think President Trump has said as much, talking about his economic advisors during his interview with Maria Bartiromo. I don't know if we have any of that tape or not. But the fact is, it may take longer. And this will not come as easily. And I think you kind of have to be, as Mr. Trump was over the weekend, you really have to be honest with the American people, don't you?
No, you do. And I think the president has been. Look, I think there is a plan. It will come to an end. I do think the president understands that, what's happening here is that, you don't have equivalent risk, I should say. We have spent a lot on this war. Americans have paid a high tax. We're paying more per gallon in refined gasoline and diesel today than we did just 2 months ago. We have spent an enormous amount of money on the national defense. We have sailors, we have Marines on the ground there. Those are very high stakes. You don't cash those in at half price. The president will finish this job. He has said he would, and I believe that he will. And I think that is the right answer. The strait must be open. It will be open. And I think the best case outcome here is going to be that it's open under American control. And when that happens, to Steve's point, oil will drop. It will come down back to where it was, perhaps even lower. I could see prices somewhere around $55 or $60 a barrel. And we'll start to see refined products follow that. And importantly, Larry, just another point, all the petrochemical products and the fertilizer products and everything else that's dependent upon this one strait, those prices begin to come down as well.
Steve Moore, before we let you go, there's a priceless clip today of Mr. Trump ordering some DoorDash food. I want to play the clip and then get your take on it. This is a wonderful moment.
Well, I want to thank you for the no tax on tips. It has helped my family out immensely, and I definitely appreciate it.
Well, there's someone that understands what tax-free tips. There's a lady's been working for DoorDash. She went right to the Oval Office to make delivery. Mr. Trump is his usual gracious self, Steve Moore. At least somebody's helped selling the Republican tax cut plan.
Well, listen, I think people are overjoyed about what's happening. This is tax season. A lot of people wait till the last minute to fill out their taxes, and they're starting to see the incredible effects of Trump's beautiful bill in terms of, less tax on their overtime, less tax on the Social Security, less tax on tips. And that is both a supply side and a demand side incentive for the economy to grow faster. By the way, you're a little more skeptical than I am that this can be over with quickly. But if it's going to take longer, and they're going to do this reconciliation bill, Larry, which I think you and I favor, let's put some economic growth stimulants in that, like the indexing of capital gains tax.
Yes.
That'll have a very positive impact on the economy and the stock market.
Sometimes referred to as the Cutler plan, but we've got to have a skinny reconciliation bill is a really lousy idea. Anyway, that was a great ad for tax-free tips and tax cuts, a good ad. And Mr. Trump is very gracious. Dan Brighteon, thank you so much. Steve Moore, appreciate it.
Let me show you something that makes me furious every time I see it. This is a real tax return from someone making $284,972 per year in a W-2 income. Take a look at this. Line 16, the federal tax alone is $85,231. Now you add in state tax, and the total tax burden jumps up to $114,000. That's
All right, this is General Keane.
The U.S. is now imposing a blockade on Iran's blockade, so how does that work? And will it be effective? Also, what does this mean for the ceasefire and potential peace talks? Here to break it all down, Fox News strategic analyst General Jack Keane is with us. General, great to have you. We know that the Iranians have mined the Strait of Hormuz. We know that we have minesweepers there. We know that the president has a main purpose, and that is to prevent the Iranians from selling any oil, to pretty much bankrupt them. My question from a strategic standpoint is, how do we enforce this and keep our Navy safe at the same time?
Yeah, well, there's two phases to this operation, and you're seeing the first phase right now, which is the blockade itself. And the way that's working is CENTCOM has established a radio communication net that all ships trying to leave or arrive in the Gulf area will communicate with them. And as you indicated, if their intent is to pick up Iranian oil or transport it out, they're not allowed to do that, and we'll tell them where to park. If they test it, in other words, they come from the north, from Card Island likely, and they want to sail through the straits, and they're not responding to the guidance that CENTCOM is telling them, then we will board that ship. And we'll probably do it with Marines from helicopters, or we can do it from a seaborne as well. The fact is, people are not going to be able to get that oil out of there. That is a fact. And that is how this blockade will work. But here's the other piece to it, and why there has to be a phase two. Remember that the reason the merchant ships are not coming, these are the non-Iranian merchant ships, which are allowed to come now. And we'll see after 24, 48 hours that they're coming, they are likely not going to come. And why is that? Because of the intimidation and coercion of Iran in the past has threatened them, and they still may not want to move. And so the second phase of this operation, the president has given a warning order to Admiral Cooper to do just what I'm about to say, and that is, one, clear the Straits of Hormuz, and you saw a couple of ships doing that over the weekend, and you mentioned it in the introduction, to get the mines that may be in that area out, and we have underwater drones trying to identify some of these mines that the Iranians planted that are not tied to anything, they lost control of them. So that will be done, and then we have to secure the Straits of Hormuz, and then also escort transit through the Straits of Hormuz. That will take some time to do that, but that will certainly block any intimidation or coercion that Iran still may have on the merchant owners of their ships, and who don't want to send the ships down here. They don't want to lose their crews, and they certainly don't want to lose their ship. So there's two phases to this operation, and it's estimated that while we'll start the escort, Sean, at some point we would turn that over to allies and partners. And there are sufficient allies gathering to come, despite their initial reluctance. They're finally getting into this thing, and that will take place over time. Now, if negotiations work out, and Iran is willing to agree to everything, and remember, President Trump said everything, and listen, I have complete confidence here in what I refer to as the backstop, and that is President Trump. He is the backstop here. Nobody on our side is going to make any deal in terms of the specifics without checking with him, and he's going to make sure he's getting everything that he wants here, and he has laid that out time and time and time again. So I've got confidence in that, and part of that, if there is a deal, would be Iran would open up the passageway so transit can take place. And remember, two things here. Iran can have ships transit through, but they can't control it. They don't designate who can move through or when they move through, and certainly no toll arrive. They have got to back off completely. The United States backs off completely at some point, and the Straits of Hormuz is open to the Sea of War Bible, that is free transit through the Straits of Hormuz and nobody controlling it. That is the end state here.
It seems to me, General, that that would be very achievable for the U.S. Navy, especially because we are not going to actually create a blockade where our Navy, at its narrowest point, the Strait of Hormuz is, what, 20, 24 miles wide. That would make our ships probably a fairly easy target. We would not give them that, quote, moral victory that they would have in their eyes. It's going to be at whatever point we decide. We would board any ship that picked up any oil from the Iranian oil, probably Cargill, and I think you're probably correct about that. So the blockade is going to be very different than putting the U.S. Navy in harm's way in any way. Now let's go to the other issue that has been the major sticking point, and that is the 460 kilograms of enriched uranium. I've gotten mixed messages from people that are very smart. Some say that we have eyes on it at all times. There's no need to go in there and extract it if they don't hand it over. We can entomb it even further to make it that much more difficult for them to ever get near it. What are your thoughts? And I know for the president, I know that he has said weeks, not months, that this conflict will come to an end. Do you see that still being achievable, even if the blockade stays in effect?
Oh, it's very achievable, and it's something that has to be achieved. It's not achieved by negotiation. Listen, I don't believe for a minute that President Trump would leave office and leave 1,000 pounds of nuclear, highly enriched uranium capable of 60% enrichment, capable of being a dirty bomb today if it was used. That's a conventional bomb with radiation associated with it, and with the potential of it being weaponized very quickly. I don't believe President Trump would ever consider leaving office after that. He's going to get that out of there one way or the other. He's either going to get it through negotiations, or another way to get it is Cargallen itself. 90% of the distribution of all their oil goes through Cargallen. Right now, none of that is working. At some point, we can say to the Iranians, listen, you let us come in and take the nuclear, highly enriched uranium out of there. We'll do it ourselves, and we'll make sure it's out of there, or else you're going to lose Cargallen. Either we're going to take control of it completely, or we're going to blow it up. And that is coercion and intimidation, to be sure. I'm absolutely convinced that President Trump is not going to leave nuclear dust there where we can keep surveilling it. And every once in a while, when they make a move on it, we have to go in there and conduct another airstrike. And that could be going on periodically. I don't see that in the cards. Nor do I see them even in a nuclear deal letting them have any kind of enriched uranium, even in the lower grade. Why? Because they lie and they cheat. And, you know, a little bit grows into a lot. We have already seen that take place in dealing with these guys. Whenever we're dealing with the Iranians, we got to know, and the president and his team knows this, these guys are liars and cheaters, and that has been their operandi for almost 50 years now. And they're masters at this stuff. But they are back on their heels now. You can see that in the negotiations. Sean, I think they underestimated where President Trump really is. When they got the ceasefire and the war stopped because of the Straits of Hormuz, I thought they believed that the United States is in a much weakened position and will go in there in these negotiations, and they will be in a situation where they're going to bend to our will and let us do some of the things we want to do. And President Trump said, no way, we're not doing any of that whatsoever. As a matter of fact, while they're negotiating, he's sailing 2 ships through the Straits of Hormuz, making the first pass through there on the way to actually clearing the whole Straits of Hormuz eventually. And then, of course, we saw what happened right after that, and that's ordering the blockade itself. They know who they're dealing with now. If they had any doubts whatsoever, they absolutely know who they're dealing with. He's not going to be intimidated.
They've got to know that they're next on the list of individuals to be targeted, even though they're the 4th and 5th tier leadership. General?
I just hope that Trump is successful in allowing for the secular community within Iran to overthrow the IRGC and the theocratic regime so they can have a constitutional republic. If the theocratic regime stays intact, somewhat, even degraded, heavily degraded, if the IRGC stays intact, even if heavily degraded, what's going to happen is this is going to rear its head up again, and it's going to be even worse for the United States. Trump has to not just open up the strait and get the energy costs down, but he has to kill negative Esau. Or there's going to be either in his administration or a future administration that's going to have to deal with the problem. This is exactly what happened in, those early day wars that were taking place between the Muslims and Israel in the late 60s and the early 70s. And in many cases, Israel actually capitulated. They gave in. They created ceasefires and peace agreements that didn't hold, that couldn't hold. So, independent on what spectrum you lie on in terms of who's at fault in the Middle East, I don't really care. The bottom line is this: It has been written down for thousands of years that negative Esau has to die. If negative Esau doesn't die, what happens is that there's world calamity. So I think we're at a crossroad here. We either kill negative Esau or we end up having problems later down the road. And we will not have a president like Trump again in our lifetime. We're going to have a weaker president, not a stronger president. So if Trump doesn't do it, then we're going to have problems down the road. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the heirloom barley. Heirloom barley will help to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals. This will help with your immune system, your endocrine system, help with your cardiovascular system, help with recovering after a workout, help with your joint health, because by bringing down inflammation, you're improving your joints, because chronic inflammation at the joint level will actually erode the cartilage. You don't want that. Bringing down inflammation and soaking up free radicals at the brain level is going to help improve your brain function. A lot of people don't realize chronic inflammation at the brain is going to cause problems with the blood vessels within the brain. It'll cause problems with folding proteins, so you'll have more misfolded proteins in amyloidosis, you'll have more plaque buildup, and early onset of dementia. You don't want that. Trust me, my father died from dementia. It sucks. It totally fucking sucks. All right? So you don't want to die from dementia. It's a bad death. All right? So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the heirloom barley. Keep that inflammation down. And the earlier you do this and the longer you do it, the better your body will be, the healthier you will be. Another great product that I have is C60. You can get it in extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and MCT coconut oil. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. It is cheaper per ounce at the higher ounce configuration, so you can save some money. But take a teaspoon a day. I've been doing this protocol for 10 years. I started taking C60 in 2016. Teaspoon a day, every day. All right? And what this will do is soak up free radicals. It's 1,000 times stronger than vitamin C. It's going to improve your tissues and your cells, bring down stress, bring down that inflammation that builds up in the cell, and you're soaking up those free radicals and improving your mitochondria, so you're going to have more energy. So you are targeting a very important point of aging, and that is mitochondrial health. Mitochondrial health declines when you age. But if you can improve the mitochondrial health by taking C60 and some of the other supplements that I offer on my store, you are reversing and improving that. You're reversing the decline of the mitochondria, and you're improving the health of the mitochondria, so your energy levels are going to go up. Your cell metabolism improves, and your organ systems, endocrine system, immune system improve. At the vascular level, by soaking up free radicals, you're reducing the concentrations of oxidized LDL. So you're reducing plaque formation. So your cardiovascular health improves. You get better blood flow to your brain. Your brain, healthier mitochondria within the neuron. So you have more neurotransmitters, more energy. You'll have better neural connections. Your brain function will improve. So you get a lot of benefits from taking C60. And you can stack it with the heirloom barley or the Boomer Boost. It's a great stack. And C60 helps with the basal layer for your skin, so you look younger. And this stacks well with the resveratrol for the basal layer. Now, also, heirloom barley can be stacked with the Boomer Boost. That you'll get added benefits of controlling your A1C levels, especially if you do some resistance training. So I just gave you great ways to slow down the aging process and get healthy. So please go to my store, get the heirloom barley and the C60. Make sure you use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right? You follow my advice, you will slow down the aging process and get healthy. And therefore, you will not need pharmacopoeia. You will not need to rely so much on standardized modern medicine, all right? You will, over time, actually have less healthcare costs in your geriatric years when you improve your health. It's a holistic approach. Proper diet, proper exercise, stay away from processed foods, stay away from sugary foods, drink filtered water, learn new things, try to get into parasympathetic mode through spirituality or through some sort of mindfulness. It's really important to do the resistance training and the cardio, but more resistance training. You want more, about 65% of your workout should be resistance training, not super heavy weights. All right, that's bad for you. Lifting super heavy, it will cause damage. But doing resistance training and about 35% doing the cardio, make sure you do balancing and stretching exercises. When you take this holistic approach, everything's aligning just perfectly for you to slow down the aging process. Now, if you don't want to pay attention to me, you will have to rely on allopathic medicine. If you pay attention to me, you will save money in the long run. If you pay attention to me with the markets, you would have made money instead of listening to a bunch of people that are fearful. What is the key lesson here? The key lesson is when you look in the mirror, your situation, either health-wise or in terms of financial situation, is 100% on you and what you decide to do. It's not someone else's fault. You take ownership, you take extreme ownership of it, of your situation, and move forward. All right, let's listen into Times Radio about what U.S. Navy will do now. 2 ships have broken Trump's blockade. All right, let's listen about this. This was published 25 minutes ago.
Pace University gets people where they want to go. Through immersive academics, real-world experiences, a customized approach that takes
the Strait of Hormuz, and despite this, one being China linked, China being very critical of the blockade. So what does Donald Trump actually do about that?
Any ship that's moving through the Straits of Hormuz. Well, as the President of the United States showed, 2 can play at that game. And if the Iranians are going to try to engage in economic terrorism, we're going to abide by a simple principle that no Iranian ships are getting out either. We know that's a big deal to them. We know that applies additional economic leverage. And again, Brett, the president wants the Iranian people to thrive and succeed.
Well, he also claims a lot of progress has been made in talks with Tehran, and meanwhile, negotiations between Israel and Lebanon are due to take place later in Washington today. Katie, Israeli and Lebanese officials are meeting publicly in Washington for the first time in decades. How significant are the optics of this in Donald Trump's White House?
I think the optics are significant. Of course, the question is how substantive it's going to be. But when you think about some of the tensions in this war, and one of the big things in DC and parts of the mega base is the role of Israel. And what you'll hear lots from figures that aren't particularly even fringe in the mega movement is the sense that they fear America has been pulled into Israel's war. They have different objectives as to how it ends. And therefore, when you're trying to find a path to peace, Israel's actions could be something that holds it up. So I think both in terms of general peace in the Middle East, but also a sense of how can you eventually wrap this thing up, which is what Donald Trump is under pressure to do, no matter what he says, from those around him, from those who want to focus on other issues, from those who didn't want it in the first place. Israel-Lebanon is going to be a key factor of that.
The president has warned that ships approaching U.S. forces are going to be immediately eliminated. How's that being received in Washington? Is anybody a bit worried about it?
I think as ever with Donald Trump, people say take them seriously, but not literally. But it really does depend on certain times of the day. I think he's said other things that have caught more attention this week. When it comes to, I suppose, how this war is going to end or how it's going to escalate, the blockade received a mixed reaction. But also, I think there was a sense of frustration in Washington, D.C., that these talks after 19 hours had ended in Islamabad. And you had J.D. Vance talking about, Had there been error in good faith, the Iranians could not accept what they wanted on nuclear weapons. And then people expected some kind of retaliation from Donald Trump. If there wasn't going to be one, then they would have done something bigger with Iran. I guess the bigger question probably today is, how is the blockade working? Because we're already having reports that 2 vessels have managed to get through the Strait of Hormuz, and despite this, one being China linked, China being very critical of the blockade. So what does Donald Trump actually do about that? Are we about to see that talk of elimination coming in if people are managing to get boats through the Strait of Hormuz, which the US has said they cannot?
Yeah. Okay, look, meanwhile, JD Vance. Okay, look, meanwhile, JD Vance has also been joining in on Donald Trump's argument with the Pope. He's saying the Vatican should stick to matters of morality. Does he feel a war is not a matter of morality?
You probably have to ask him.
All right, I'm going to pause Times Radio at this moment. The markets are open. The S&P 500 is trading at 6,906. Again, if you paid attention to me 5 weeks ago, you would have made 6% today. Okay? All right? Today, you would have made 6% if you paid attention to me 5 weeks ago. So, VIX is trading at 18.24. Euro USD is trading at 117. Japanese yen is trading at 158.84. So currency markets are stable. Oil is now trading at $95.73. Bitcoin is 74,000. Natural gas is trading at 2.6. All right, so what do I think is going to be happening with oil? I think that there is more down pressure because of the blockade and Trump putting pressure on Iran, and Iran hasn't retaliated. As long as that continues, then we're going to be in this 95, maybe even go all the way down to 94 range. But any retaliation from Iran or the United States having to use kinetic force with the blockade or to attack certain positions or certain installations within Iran, oil will go up, right? But it would probably be fleeting. It'll probably go up and then come back down. So it's very possible that we have a trading range at around 95 to about 100, all right? But there's more down pressure than for it to appreciate. So it's relatively stable. It's been hovering at around 95 to about 98. So there's probably a trading range, potentially, depending on what happens in the news, anywhere from 94 to 100 with WTI. Now, natural gas is up today, and the intraday low was 2.575. We're getting into the summer season. Normally, natural gas is lower. So I suspect that will continue to fall. All right. So it might be advisable to maybe think about shorting natural gas right now. But if something bad happens in the Middle East, natural gas will go up more. And typically, natural gas and oil has a tendency at times throughout the year to be inversely related. So you have oil going down today, you have natural gas going up. So that seems to be the modus operandi, seems to hold. Okay, with that, let's continue. Oh, I want to mention what my year-end target is. I've been saying this for a long time, 7,400 to 7,800 for year-end target for the S&P 500. It's probably closer to 7,800. Now, the next support level for the S&P 500 is the 6,600 support level. So if things get bad in the Middle East, there should be a support level at 6,600. Now, there's going to be a resistance level that we're going to be testing. That's at 7,000. Right now, it's trading at 6,908. And the futures, which is always a little bit higher than the actual cash market, that's trading at 6,945. So we will be testing it. in a few days, as long as we get good news in the Middle East. But we will be testing it, and I suspect it will bounce off of that a little bit. It'll come down and then retest, bounce around, and then if everything's positive in the Middle East, it's going to surge past 7,000. Okay, with that, let's continue on with Times News.
Matters morality. Well, of course, a war is a moral matter, but I think there's more than one person, or more than two people in Donald Trump and J.D. Vance who have questioned, in the past, the role of, religious figures getting involved in political situations. Now, the Pope, I think, is going to have an opinion on war. It clearly has a moral factor to it, but it's also something where politicians make decisions. So I think that's just an area where we know that Donald Trump has for a long time not taken too kindly to this Pope. We know that there is a sense in MAGA that they have got an American Pope, but one that is critical to them, and that has not landed well. But I think what I find quite interesting in America, actually in the past couple of weeks, I was in Texas, for example, looking at James Tallarico, who is a Democrat candidate, who's been picked to be the official Democrat candidate for the Senate race in Texas, and he talks a lot about faith in God. And his church, which I went to, is a lot more about kind of how MAGA is not true to God and what he would want. And we are, I think, having the debate about, the intersection between politics and faith is becoming, I think, more and more prominent here in the US, with the left also getting involved.
Moving on, Katie, let's turn to our Trumpian moment of the week.
This incredible moment in the eye of history is truly one of the great honors of my life.
What have you got for us, Katie?
Well, you already mentioned the Pope, and
Whoa.
what's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, maybe just built an app.
Impossible.
Now, my take on the Pope, my quick take on the Pope, all right? He's an American citizen, so he has the freedom of speech. If he wants to say something bad about Trump or his policies, it's his American God-given right. No pun intended. As a leader of the church, of the Catholic faith, Pope Leo needs to understand we have a concept called the separation between church and state. All right? So just keep that in mind. There is a reason why people moved away from Christianity, and it was the over-proselytizing that was taking place. So there are more people moving towards religion now because they want God, country, and family in their life. They want to align themselves more with the Enlightenment, the philosophy of the Enlightenment, versus the postmodern philosophy, which is chaotic and disruptive and causes social decline. So there's a perfect opportunity for all religions, including the Christian religion, to understand that if you over-proselytize under this situation, if you overplay your hand, it'll backfire. And people will move away from the religion just like they did in the 80s. So people that are part of the clergy, either, priesthood or imams or rabbis, or I don't know what the Buddhist version of it is, monks, all right, some sort of monk priest, they need to realize, take this as an opportunity to be able to get people back towards spirituality, but don't overplay the hand. Because if you overplay the hand, what will happen is postmodernism will come back. And you don't want that, because postmodernism is what erodes our economies, because postmodernism is directly linked to socialism and communism and Marxism, directly linked. You're not going to have God, country, and family. And therefore, the society will continue to decline. So this is a perfect opportunity to get people to be more spiritual, but don't overplay your hand. So the Pope wants to say something, okay. He's an American citizen. He can say whatever he wants. He has the freedom of speech. But as a leader of the church, I find it very odd that he thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I think it's very odd that he'll say more about Trump, but what about how the Ayatollah and the IRGC massacred the protesters in Iran? He'll say more about Trump than actually looking at this and saying, you know what, this is actually a biblical issue that goes farther back than Christianity with Jacob and Esau. And the wisdom of the mother. I don't recall the name of the mother. I don't think it's Rebecca. I think it's the one, maybe it is Rebecca. I think it's a different one. I'm not sure. But the mother of Jacob and Esau, of the twins, knew that Esau could not get the blessing, even though he was, quote, the firstborn, because he was born just before Jacob, because of his animalistic behavior. So certain people with certain mentalities can't have certain types of weaponry, like AKA nuclear. Now, such a scholar like Leo, the Pope, should know this. So Esau, negative Esau, we are literally seeing being targeted and is right in sight of being killed off. And this has been written down for more than 2,000 years in texts. And that's not including what was written in the Old Testament. The Old Testament goes way back farther. So Leo, he knows better. He knows this. It's not like he doesn't know this. So, church and state separation in the United States. That is a pillar of our constitutional freedoms.
Clearly has dominated, but I think the other Trumpian moment of the week comes back to McDonald's. And yeah, so we need to kind of get the impression that the White House want you to talk about something when they're saying, oh, there's a special announcement. And so is it going to be at the war? And you just know in your bones it's very unlikely to be. And instead, this was on Monday, a DoorDash delivery allegedly of McDonald's to the president on what is tax week to try and accentuate the point of no tax on tips. What was...
I wish Trump would stop eating McDonald's. One, because it's terrible for your health. Two, McDonald's has been a major force vector in big agriculture, and it actually drives up because of the accumulation of land and big ag. It crowds out the smaller farmer and the smaller cattle rancher. Big ag is not good. Big ag actually raises your prices, not lowers them. There's less competition. And that whole fast food industry is a part of it. But it's not just the fast food industry. But supporting fast food is not good for your health. But let's look at it from just the standpoint of just Trump. He keeps on eating McDonald's, he's going to have a heart attack. And I would like him to, get the job done before he has his heart attack. Plus, Americans are too fat and stupid. Do we need more McDonald's? No, we don't need more McDonald's. We need people to start eating properly and don't even eat out. Eat at home. Cooking your food at home is better for you. One, the ingredients are better. You'll be able to portion control. And not only that, you get added benefits. You have kinematics. You're making something. You're going through a process and making something. And the more complex the process is, the more of a finesse there is. Actually, you're improving your brain function. And people would say, huh? Why cooking food improves your brain function, DrPaulCottrell? Because you're actually thinking through a multi-step process and you're moving your body. When you move your body and you're going through multiple step processes, you actually improve your neural function. Instead of going to McDonald's, saying, I'll have a Big Mac and cheese with a large fry and Coke, that makes you stupid because you're not actually making it.
Entertaining about the spectacle was this was a grandmother who showed up in her DoorDash shop and then was talking, and then even Donald Trump could see that this isn't staged at all because, of course, if you were DoorDash or name any delivery, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, we can go through them all. If you were those, you wouldn't be able to just walk through White House security. So they clearly picked their desired DoorDash. There are now lots of things online about how this woman has also testified on how tax for tips has helped her in the past. So this was a grandmother talking about it. But even for all the care and precision, there was a point where Donald Trump, as he does, was talking to the press about many issues, including how you should only have women in women's sports. And he asked this grandmother, and she said, "Oh, sir, I don't really know about that. I just care about tax on tips." So it didn't completely work out.
Do you know what? I think we can actually hear some of that. Let's listen.
Would you like to do a little news conference with me with these people? These are not the nicest people. They're not nice like you. You know that, right?
I'll do whatever you ask me to do, sir.
Any idea what you ordered? I've heard before it's all burgers and no fries.
Yeah, I think chicken.
Build on-brand assets in no time with Canva's AI-powered design generator. Simply type an idea and watch it appear.
Yeah, I think chicken nuggets are involved. I've heard, yeah. But I do think it's burger heavy. I mean, there was that great photo in the first couple of weeks of Trump's victory, where he was on a plane with his new health secretary, RFK Jr., and they were all eating McDonald's, which I think was interesting in the sense that RFK Jr. with the Maha movement has not been particularly big on McDonald's, but we know that Donald Trump is very big on McDonald's. And I think RFK had to accept, obviously, the job.
We would radically change the cardiovascular health of the United States if we got rid of fast food. Now, fast food came out in the mid-50s, roughly. That's when it started, all right? And people could notice actually cardiovascular disease in the soldiers during the Korean War because of fast food. Now, why would I say that? Because there were so many soldiers that died, they could actually see while they were having their guts cut open while they were trying to save them. They could see that plaque was starting to build up in the vascular system. All right, so there was a inflection point in the 50s that was starting to take hold. Now, that was relatively minor relative to the types of fast food that we have today, which is a lot worse. And the calorie increase is way higher. So eating fast food every day, I have a comment on X Spaces saying that someone had a neighbor that ate food every day. I think it was Burger King, but ate every day, and they lived until they're 80. Well, you can live to an older age. That's not the only variable that allows you to live to an older age. Just diet. There's also other components to it. All right, but the thing is that I'm willing to bet that someone that is eating every day, which seems to be a little bit hyperbolic, but if someone is eating fast food every day, I'm willing to bet their BMI is above 25. Well, that's not good. That's not good. So if you live that longer and you are fat, most likely you had problems with your joints, problems with your legs, problems with blood flow. So just living longer isn't the point. It's living a more healthy life. That's the point. You want to have vitality when you have your longevity. So, but there's far too many people that actually die because of cardiovascular problems by eating fast food. My brother was one of them. My brother, even though we're predisposed to cardiovascular disease on my mother's side, and people rampantly die at a young age. My uncles died at a young age. My grandmother died at a young age. My mother, before she died, she had, I think it was 5 heart attacks. My brother had 2. The second one killed him. And you know the thing, the common thread was not eating properly. My brother ate tons of fast food. He worked late, he was in accounting, he was in finance, and it was convenient. And it killed him. You know what his last meal was? His literally last meal before he died? Chipotle. I'll never fucking eat Chipotle. Ever. So when people think, oh, it's going to be so great to just eat fast food, and then you're going to, I know people that live on, I have not met anyone that had fast food every day and didn't have cardiovascular disease and didn't have a big BMI, had a large BMI. Not one.
He wanted, but in doing so, eat some food that he had railed against.
Finally, Katie, let's compare Westminster to Washington. And this week we're going to talk about deputies, Deputy PM David Lammy and Vice President J.D. Vance. Of course, they are soon to meet. Which of these do you think is the more influential person with their bosses, their respective bosses?
I think J.D. Vance is probably more influential than David Lammy. No disrespect to David Lammy. I think that if you look at, and the pair met yesterday in DC. I'm sure we'll meet again as friends, as we are often told. But I think, the role of Deputy Prime Minister you haven't always had. I do think, though, J.D. Vance is recreating the role of Vice President in the way that it was often seen as a dead-end route, and often you gave it to an opponent or someone you just had to keep fairly on side, or you're doing it because they bring some voters over that you're not applying to. And I think that J.D. Vance was not the establishment pick for Donald Trump when it came to who to pick as vice president. He was under pressure to pick someone else. Marco Rubio was one of the names, and actually his son, Donald Trump Jr., I think others like Tucker Carlson were all saying, you should go for J.D. Vance, forget what the others say, because he's going to be more true to the future of MAGA and having post-Trump a MAGA voice, and therefore I think he's talked about a lot more some of the future than some VPs have been in the past.
Thank you very much indeed, Katie Ball. It's always a pleasure, always good to speak to you. Katie is, of course, our Washington editor.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the clarity factor. Why? Because this will get rid of that brain fog, allow you to concentrate, and improve the connections of your neurons over time. You'll be able to think faster and have better memory. This is a very powerful neurostic that you should be taking every day. Make sure you drink it with filtered water. Myotrol, super important to build muscle and to maintain muscle. If you're 40 years of age or older, male or female, you have atrophy. You can't build muscle as well. Make sure you do some resistance training. Take the supplements that boost up your energy levels that I have that will help to improve your mitochondria, and take the Myotrol. Myotrol will help with the gene expression to build muscle and maintain muscle. So you're reducing atrophy. That's super important, because with good musculature, you actually improve your brain function. Why, Dr. Paul? Why is it that building muscle will help your brain? Well, myokines are produced, and your concentrations of BD and F will help to protect your neurons. This is the reason why people that have atrophy have a tendency to have less brain function. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Myotrol. It has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression to build muscle. If you're an athlete, younger or older, you will also benefit from this to build strength for your sport. So please go to my store and get the Myotrol. Omega-3, again, helps with cardiovascular health, brings down inflammation, and helps you to control your lipid profile, lowers LDL levels, and increases your HDL levels. By bringing down the concentration of your LDL, you have less plaque formation. By bringing down inflammation at the vascular level, you're reducing damage to the intima of the blood vessel. And when you have a better cardiovascular health, you have better perfusion to your brain. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Make sure you take omega-3. I don't care what age you are. Get the omega-3 and take it. Ashwagandha root helps to control your cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels. That helps to bring down the inflammation. It helps to improve your immune system because chronic elevated levels of cortisol because of stress or pain or inflammation, chronic elevated levels of cortisol is immunosuppressive. And it also damages, that cortisol will damage your tissues. You'll age faster. This is the reason why people that are, quote, stressed look older. It's not the stress per se, it's the actual cortisol concentrations that are actually aging you. You want to bring it down. Bring it down. All right? Take the ashwagandha root every day. It'll help to boost up the immune system and help with your cardiovascular function. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 to get $5 off any order and stop eating the fast food like McDonald's. There's zero reason why you need fast food. Zero. Absolutely zero. Zero reason. All right, let's listen to Fox News here.
Finance the old way. Finance the rent way.
Celebrate your amazing mom. Shower her with love and thoughtful gourmet gifts that say Happy Mother's Day. All.
First, we turn it over to Alex Hogan in D.C. with the latest on the Iran negotiations. Alex.
Good morning, Carly Johnson. Talks that future negotiations could be in the works or underway. So all of this changing hour by hour. But Vice President J.D. Vance says that the next move is still on the Iranians.
We've made clear where we're willing, again, to be accommodating, and we've made clear where we absolutely need to see the nuclear material come out of the country of Iran. I think the team that was there was unable to cut a deal, and they had to go back to Tehran, either from the supreme leader or somebody else, and actually get approval to the terms that we had set. Whether we ultimately get to a deal, I really think the ball is in the Iranian court because we put a lot on the table.
President Donald Trump says the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is underway. Pakistan now reportedly proposing of hosting a new round of talks in Islamabad. Some sources telling Reuters that those talks could resume as early as the end of this week. The White House says those non-negotiables that are on their best and final offer, will those still stand?
Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. And we agreed to a lot of things, but they didn't agree to that. And I think they will agree to it. I'm almost sure of it. In fact, I am sure of it. If they don't agree, there's no deal. We can't let a country blackmail or extort the world, because that's what they're doing. They're really blackmailing the world. We're not going to let that happen.
The UK and France are set to co-host talks this week. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer calling it a multinational plan to safeguard shipping whenever this conflict ends. Carly, Todd, back to you.
All right, Alex Hogan, live for us in Washington. Alex, thank you. Let's bring in former NSC Chief of Staff under President Trump, Alex Gray. Alex, good to see you. So, as Alex just said, second round of negotiations reportedly in the works right now, and President Trump said that Iran wants to make a deal very badly. Here is how Vice President J.D. Vance detailed to Brett Baer on the past round of negotiations over this weekend and what they entailed. Listen.
I wouldn't just say that things went wrong. I also think things went right. We made a lot of progress, but we also made very clear, and I think this is part of the progress we made, what the terms where the United States could make some accommodation, what terms we were flexible on. In order for Iran to be a normal country economically, it's going to have to be a normal country from the perspective of not pursuing a nuclear weapon, and it's going to have to be a normal country from not pursuing terrorism. And so there really is, I think, a grand deal to be had here. But it's up to the Iranians, I think, to take the next step.
Do you think there's a chance this could end in a diplomatic resolution?
Well, Carly, good to see you. It always ends at the diplomatic table. That's how these conflicts end. And I do think there is a solution here. But as the vice president said, it requires the Iranian regime to act like something that it has not acted like for 47 years, which is a normal country that is interested in the interests of its people and the interests of the region.
They can't be, because it's negative Esau. The Ayatollah, that whole regime has to be destroyed. Absolutely, it cannot be reconstituted. That means actually destroying the Shia religion.
Than in a radical expansionist ideology. And that's what the United States is attempting to get the mullahs to behave like. And I think with enough
just kicking the can out
and economic pressure, I do think the Vice President's absolutely right. We will hopefully settle this at the diplomatic table, like all conflicts ultimately end.
What did you think about the Vice President saying that part of the problem over the weekend was that the team of people that Iran sent to negotiate didn't have final say over being able to strike a deal or make a decision? Does raise some questions over who exactly is in charge.
Well, I think that's been part of the problem, even getting a ceasefire. I think we have consistently seen as the Iranian leadership has been eliminated kind of one by one by Israel, particularly over the last couple of months. You have seen a difficult time with the command and control structure, even finding interlocutors who the United States is confident have the ability to follow through on the things they say they're going to do. And so this is absolutely a challenge. And I think not only that, but the Iranian negotiating style that we've seen for decades is always about buying time, leading the other party on, and trying to take as much time as humanly possible in order to get their goals accomplished.
Yeah, and the red lines the Vice President made very clear have to do with everything related to nuclear, being able to obtain the already enriched uranium, and also vowing by Iran to never make a nuclear weapon again. So far, no commitments from Iran on that front.
Yeah, no commitments. And look, I used to have this conversation with people when I worked for President Trump the first time. People would say, well, the president, is he really that adamant about Iran not getting a nuclear weapon? The president has said, going back to the Obama administration, when he was a private citizen, that it was a non-negotiable for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This is something that he has been so clear on for over a decade. And so absolutely, there's no doubt that the president is going to make sure, as one of his going-in assumptions, the president's not going to ever allow Iran to be at the nuclear table. You cannot trust a regime that is that ideologically motivated and radical to have the most powerful and destructive weapons on the planet.
Yeah, and then according to the Wall Street Journal, Alex, one estimate, the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz will cost Iran approximately $435 million a day, including $226 million in lost exports, mostly
Breaking news.
Crude oil and petrochemicals.
IMF lowers world GDP to 3.1%. Prior was 3.3%. U.S. new estimate 2.3% was 2.4%. Euro area 1.1% was 1.3%. China 4.4% was 4.1%.
Goals. I mean, this is when the military might meets the economic element of this story. And while Iran is radicalized, money does talk. So which one ends up winning when all is said and done?
Well, I think we've already won on the military side. We've accomplished our operational objectives. Economically, you see estimates of up to $500 million a day in losses. And there's something else that people need to realize. The Iranians have a limited ability. If they don't start exporting their oil within about 2 weeks, they are going to see structural damage to their oil capacity because the oil is piling up and it's having a corrosive effect on the storage tanks that the oil is kept in. So in 13 to 14 days, if they can't start getting their oil out, you have a permanent decapitation of the Iranian oil industry, and that is going to be catastrophic economically for them. So for structural reasons, you're going to see economic pain delivered to the Iranians in about 2 weeks that I don't think they're going to be able to withstand.
Former NSA Chief of Staff under President Trump, Alex Ray, thank you so much for your expertise and your time, as always.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Yeah, let's listen to
Something I used to.
Yeah, well, in addition to the Pakistani Prime Minister, the Defense Minister now has also confirmed that there is an intense effort underway to bring the parties together. What we know is that it could happen as early as the end of this week, even into the weekend. But as we've been reporting here in Al Jazeera, after the talks involving J.D. Vance and the Iranians took place and ended without an agreement on Saturday morning, or rather Sunday morning, the top-level delegations left. But the subject matter experts and the technical teams remained in Islamabad, and they continued to talk because there was this sense that they were very close to being able to effort an agreement. And so what we know is that the Pakistani government seized on that and is now working, trying to get a second round of talks underway. Now, this is likely not to be at the highest levels. What our sources are telling us is this would likely be at the foreign minister level, and if it doesn't take place in Islamabad, it could also potentially be in Geneva, or also we believe it could be in Vienna. But
okay, so breaking right now, oil is breaking past the 38% retracement support level, and now it's trading at 93.65.
Far, there is no sort of rough timeline on a date or what the talks could consist of. Still, there is planning in the works, and there is new urgency given the United States blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and the fear of escalation, wondering and questioning just how far the United States will go to enforce it and how Iran could react.
Right, Kimberly, thanks very much for that update. That's Kimberly Halkett there from Islamabad. Over to you, Ali, in Tehran. What about the Iranian side? What are they saying in terms of diplomacy? Of course, just after the Strait of Hormuz has been blocked by the US, but also reports that there seem to have been sticking points on uranium enrichment, Iran wanting a 5-year pause and the US asking for 20.
But so there are a lot of speculations going on with respect to the talks in Pakistan or in any other venue, because what's on the table right now is two venues at least, Islamabad and Istanbul. But we're not hearing any confirmation from the Iranian officials regarding the next step, or let me say, the next round of negotiations that's said to be on a technical level. But what we are understanding from our sources is that, first of all, there are quite some points that are bridgeable. One of them is the enrichment issue. Now, regardless of the years, because what's being circulating in media is that the United States wants 20 years, the Iranians are offering 5 years. Probably this is not completely accurate. It could be accurate partially, but it's not completely accurate. At the end, there is a possibility to reach somewhere on this level. The other issue, which is very crucial, is also the management of the Strait of Hormuz and how the future of the strait is going to be. The Iranians are insisting, and actually they are taking measures in this regard, and the Supreme Leader, the new Supreme Leader, Mustafa Harangue, said it clearly that the future of the strait is going to be different than before. And to them, this is right now a main issue on the table. So these are the issues that are going to be discussed. Plus, of course, the highly enriched uranium, the quantity which exceeds 450 kilograms, and are said to be buried in one of the destroyed Iranian nuclear facilities.
Businesses often rely on multiple applications. It can be overwhelming stitching together and making real use of that data. AI simplifies this. ROAI.
So what's going to be removed from the table is actually interesting, because in a way or another, we are watching this whole situation getting to a very dynamic negotiations reality, but still there are issues that are going to be hurdles, such as Iran's ballistic missiles and Iran's support to its allies in the region at the time when Israel and Hezbollah are still in the middle of a battle in Lebanon.
All right, thank you very much, Ali Hashim. That's the update there from Iran's capital, Tehran. Let's now go to the White House. That's where our chief U.S. correspondent, Alan Fisher, is live for us. Alan, so the U.S. has had a few days to mull over these talks that were held in Pakistan. Does it still have the same position, or is there any budging on that position at all?
Look, I think if anyone took a glimmer of hope from the collapse of the talks in Islamabad at the weekend, it was that neither side walked away and said, that's it, we're done. So that leaves some room for manoeuvre, clearly. And we have 8 days left of the ceasefire. Donald Trump made it very clear when he spoke outside the Oval Office about 24 hours ago that his intention is that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. It's something he's campaigned on, it's something he's talked a lot about. But what we're hearing from reports is that J.D. Vance offered to the Iranians that they wouldn't enrich uranium to nuclear weapon grade over the next 15 to 20 years. Now, we're told, and we've heard it in our own reporting, that the Iranians offered 5 years. Now, that's not acceptable. So maybe somewhere in the middle there.
For the ones that are watching the telemetry version of the live stream, you'll notice that the future CL, that's the WTI crude future, it broke the 38% support level and is now trading at $92.21. Let's see here.
Years are the minimum. Donald Trump would like to see more than that so that he can say that his deal was better. And of course, he's put Iran back where he believes it should be sitting in the region. It's very controversial. There's still a lot of work to be done, still a lot of technical points to be discussed. But it seems that things are moving towards another round of discussions, and that will give people some hope over the next 8 days.
Yeah, certainly that seems to be the indication for now. Thank you very much, Alan Fisher, our chief US correspondent there in the White House. Qatar's Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani has urged Tehran to return to the negotiating table, and he made the comments during a call with Iran's foreign minister. A spokesman for Qatar's foreign ministry says the US and Iran need to reach a solution to open the Strait of Hormuz.
What is happening right now is certainly not conducive of ending the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, but we have always said that there needs to be a sustainable solution that guarantees that no party is able or willing to block movement through the strait. When it comes to the call between His Excellency the Prime Minister and the Iranian Foreign Minister, in the call we reiterated our position in condemning any attacks on the sovereignty of Qatar or any neighboring country. We reiterated our support for the ceasefire, and we urged the Iranian side to engage fully in the talks, as we have said, of the US.
The United Kingdom and France will hold a joint video conference on Friday to address the Strait of Hormuz crisis. Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer will chair the talks in Paris. The summit will bring countries that want to secure safe passage in the Gulf waterway and a negotiated end to the conflict. On Monday, Starmer said British ships will not participate in the US blockade. In the next hour, the US Secretary of State is set to join a meeting in Washington between Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors, but both sides have conflicting goals. Lebanon has demanded a ceasefire before talks begin. Israel hasn't halted its attacks on southern Lebanon or addressed withdrawing its troops from the area. Zaina Khalid reports from Beirut.
There's been no let-up in Israeli strikes. Israel says the conflict with Hezbollah is continuing.
We're going to pivot over to some local politics in New York City about Mandani. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nanosilver drops and lozenges. If you have a throat irritation because of the allergy seasons or even the cold season, make sure you use these. They will help to neutralize and help to protect your oral pharynx. You can get it in cherry flavor, honey and lemon, and also in blueberry. Now, the lozenges are a little bit larger than the drops. And you can get them in Manuka honey and also in orange splash. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the drops or the lozenges. They're made from structural nanosilver. They'll help to neutralize and help to protect the epithelial cells in your oropharynx. Super important to help to boost up that immune system. But again, it helps to neutralize. Super important. These are better than the other lozenges that you may purchase at the store. So please go to my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these drops and lozenges. Also, get the vitamin C and magnesium. This will help to boost up your immune system. Vitamin C also helps with the health of your skin, and magnesium helps with brain function. Magnesium and zinc also helps with brain function and boosts up that immune system. You can stack these together. Super important to boost up that immune system. And magnesium will help to improve the efficacy of vitamin D3. And that's super important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And also, I have structural nanosilver soaps to improve your skin. And again, it helps to neutralize. You can get it in lemongrass and also in peppermint. So please go to my store. Make sure you use discount 5. All right, let's listen into what's going on with affordability due to socialism.
This has increased daily package processing capacity by 4.
Tabor, co-founder of the American Real Estate Association and a broker at Compass. Today, your 20th anniversary as a real estate agent.
Yay, 20 years.
Love it. Congratulations. We've done each other for years.
All that time almost.
Happy to celebrate with you.
Thank you. It's great to be here for that.
Let's talk about that because you're licensed to practice in New York and in Florida.
Right.
You are the person that has witnessed this exodus the most. What do you say?
Well, there are different baskets of people. But in New York, we still see that there are people who want to be here, who are here for work and for their life. The question is, can they afford to stay here? And that's the top question right now is affordability and how do we make it easier for folks to live, work, and play here and to thrive in the city.
And have quality of life at the same time. And recent data from apartments.com that shows that the average rent for a one-bedroom in Manhattan, people across the country are not going to believe this, $4,083 for a one-bedroom in Manhattan, 149% higher than the national average. Take a listen to the mayor of New York and what he said about housing affordability.
We're taking on the biggest driver of the affordability crisis in our city, housing. We are going after the bad landlords who violate our laws and mistreat their tenants. New York City will no longer tolerate exploitation as a business model. I have thought often of the Margaret Thatcher quote. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. If anything, my friends, it seems that you eventually need a socialist to clean up the mess.
Jason, your reaction to that?
So as I travel the country on an affordability tour, tomorrow I'm talking with 2 governors, one Democrat, one a Republican, one from the mid.
Mayor Mondani is a communist, antithetical to the Enlightenment, antithetical to our Constitution. Our Constitution's bedrock is the Enlightenment. Mondani wants to erode your property rights. Mondani is a pig. Napoleon the pig from Animal Farm, where he thinks that he's going to be able to push out the capitalists and the socialists are going to be able to run the farm. But what happens? Corruption, the animals get upset, there's an overthrowing of the regime. Mondani is what was warned in Animal Farm. Beware of the communistic pig.
One from the West. They both have different prescriptions to solve for affordability. None of what he just said there will help solve this problem. In fact, will only make it worse.
That tracks with what I know and how much I've covered Zora Mondani. Yeah. Let's talk about kind of the broader picture because we just got some data in today on existing home sales and it was down more than we expected. So we're seeing pressure on home sales across the country. What's going on?
Right, not necessarily a surprise. What it really comes down to is USA, uncertainty, supply, and affordability. These three items are hanging over the market right now. You have plenty of buyers that want to buy. They're having trouble finding a home. They're having trouble affording a home. The mortgage rates need to come down for more of them to be able to buy that home. So there's a lot of these question marks out there right now. But when you buy real estate, it's about confidence in the American economy. When people feel confident, they're more able to step forward and make that purchase. Right now, you have some uncertainty in the air, too.
And this is the spring selling season, which is somewhat of an issue. White House economists say we're really across the country, we're short about 10 million homes.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
So we have a massive supply shortage in this country right now, and that's really what we need to focus on. Rezoning, figuring out how to add more supply. It's not just about building, it's about where you build and how you build, and fighting NIMBYism. That's not in my backyard. Because most people in this country will agree. You ask them on the street, yeah, let's build more, let's add more supply. Oh, but don't do it next to my house. Do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Fighting NIMBYism is a big part of solving for affordability in this country.
It's interesting that you say that, especially with what we're seeing out in California that's been playing out in Los Angeles.
Yes.
The fires. Let me ask you about this. There's a piece in HousingWire.com talks about.
Well, think about this. All right. The 80s and the early 90s, for the ones that had homes and had, good jobs, what area would you say that was vibrant where it had a lot of multiculturalism? There seems to be a correlation between less multiculturalism in some of these areas and a better way of life, better education, the schools, the behavior of the kids. It's all better when there's less of this postmodernism, less of this multiculturalism. Now, multiculturalism at the surface seems to be great. But the thing is that, unfortunately, what the data is showing is it's a race to the bottom. It's a race to the common denominator. Things don't get better. Things get worse in terms of the schools, the property values, the upkeep of the city. So there's something to be learned from this, that this idea of relativism, of this hyper diversified culturalism that is taking place has eroded the economic viability of many cities. The crime goes up, the school system goes down, the kids learn less, the behavior of the kids start to go down. These are all common themes. So when people say not in my backyard, well, they're starting to realize, wait a minute, things were better in the 80s and the 90s than now. So why would we want to continue failed policy? Why? And so you can see, and I'm especially in suburbia, all right? You have a lot more deliveries through Uber Eats or deliveries from the grocery store to a home. There's more ability to order something online and have it delivered. That's great if you're older and you can't get around. All right? But what is happening within these suburbs that are high income level, the drivers are low income level. And so what's happening is that there is an erosion of the city, slowly. So this gig economy is actually eroding the actual society. Things are not better. People would think that things are better with this whole postmodernism. It's not. It's not. So, well, wait a minute. Maybe we should go back to the 80s or the early 90s. Maybe some things that were happening in the economy and with our school districts, with our townships and our suburbs, maybe something has to change. Maybe we need to go back to that kind of world. Maybe we'll never be able to get there. I don't know. But I do know that a society that is, quote, over multicultural, there seems to be a decline in the society. Now, maybe it's because of a lack of continuity within a culture, because if there's a lot of different cultures, then they're competing, or there's not enough cohesion for the society. Maybe that's it. I don't know the reason why it's declining, other than it's an alignment to a postmodern philosophy. But the point here is that it's happening. So when someone says, not in my backyard, well, there's a reason for that, because you don't want your home sales to go down. You don't want your property values to go down. If you have your kids in public school system, you don't want the school system to go down. Because once the school, how it starts is that once the school system starts to go down, then the property values start to go down. Then there's more people that are moving in, and the multiculturalism, and then it just starts to continue on a downward spiral. So there's a reason why people say not in my backyard. You want a nuclear power plant in your backyard? Do you want to have a mall in your backyard? Malls right next to you actually bring down your home values. Do you want to have a low-income housing project right next to you? That's going to lower your property values. So you put in, you're paying all these taxes, you're paying for property tax, you're hoping that this investment in your home is positive for you when you get into your retirement years. So you're trying to protect it. So there is such a thing as some people should just live in some places and other people should live in other places. Because this whole multicultural diversification within the society doesn't seem to bring the society better. It's not making it better. If that was the case, then why isn't the school systems better? Why is it continuing to fail? And with this whole postmodern alignment, even the teachers, they're super liberal, they got blue hair. Do you want your kid to be taught by a blue-haired liberal? Do you want your kid to be going through elementary school seeing all that crap? Do you think that they're going to be better citizens when that teacher, day after day, year after year, where that whole teaching cohort is a bunch of ultra liberals with blue hair and pushing gender fluidity? You think that's going to be healthy for the society? It's not. Something changed in the United States, and it happened around 1995. I would say that there was a sweet spot in terms of economic activity for most people, and stability within suburbia was in the 80s to about 1995.
That basically, when pricing behavior and buyer response starts to diverge, that's when the housing market turns. Yeah. We're not seeing that right now, or are we?
No, I don't think so. I think actually we're seeing a market that is just waiting. Buyers are there. Like they want to be there. It's not just aspirational, it's meaningful and important for them. Buying a home, most people know, builds generational wealth. It's the best way to do that. But what you have right now is a problem of the sidelines, and it's getting people off the sidelines and into homes is what we need to focus on.
They say the three most important things: pricing behavior, market response, and friction. I thought the word friction was interesting.
Yeah, the complications of buying. So that, you know, the costs that are associated with buying a home, the taxes and all the costs that can go into it. Transactions can be expensive.
We're seeing the 30-year fix tick higher. Unfortunately,
10 years going up.
This is something that has been on President Trump's radar. He, of course, is
he watches the 10-year. We know he watches it, which is great, by the way, because it's important. The 10-year is, guides so much of our economy.
It's one of the biggest reasons that he continues to criticize Jerome Powell, our current Fed chair, and he's nominated Kevin Warsh to be the next Fed chair. We'll see how that plays out in May, obviously, with the confirmation. At the same time, if we do get, say, a cut later in the year, we haven't always seen that correlate with mortgage rates falling. And that's the first time in recent memory for me that I watched that happen last year, I believe.
Yep.
What about this year?
Right. So, we'll take on my crystal ball.
Yeah, I know.
The hope is that you get the 10-year down to, say, under 4, which, by the way, before the start of the Iran war, we got there and mortgage rates finally fell to 5.98%. Getting a 5 handle on mortgage rates for the 30-year fix is what's really important to buyers. We were right there, and now we've trickled back up to about 6.35 or so.
The other, real quick before we go, the other thing that we've seen with portable mortgages, there's some issues. I understand that with underwriting. 50-year mortgages didn't really appeal much to banks for some reason. But at the end of the day, regulation, pulling off the regulatory burden on new home building, that's something that the EPA and Lee Zeldin is doing and have been doing. That seems to me to be kind of the trick to get more supply on the market.
Well, we need to go fast. We also need to realize that even if you allow builders to build fast, there still may be local opposition because of NIMBYism.
Right.
So this is a whole government holistic approach to solving this, and there's lots of moving parts.
There is a lot of moving parts. Final word, your predictions for the market for this year.
Oh, I think it's actually going to be better than we think it's going to be. And I would say, let's see where interest rates go. Hopefully we'll move down from here as we get more certainty in the world and find more. As long as we have governors out there working for solutions to affordability and are rezoning and are thinking smartly about it, I think we'll be in good shape.
Maybe some mayors will do the same.
Oh, we've got to work on that locally here.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the resveratrol. This will help with youthful gene expression, improve your mitochondrial health. It's going to bring down free radicals because it's an antioxidant, gets rid of senescent cells. Your skin will improve because it improves your basal layer. Resveratrol is super important to help with slowing down the aging process. It stacks really well with C60. Lignans also brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals, helps the immune system and the endocrine system. And by doing that on a regular basis, you're improving your cardiovascular health, your immune system, and your brain function. You want to keep that inflammation down. Vitamin B complex. This will help with your mitochondria. The electron transport chain within the mitochondria is going to improve, and you're going to have more ATP. The first 4 B vitamins help with that. Your cellular metabolism will improve. You'll have more energy. And vitamin B12 helps to protect neurons. Super important. Take this if you're 40 years of age or older. Super important. And probiotics. Probiotics are super important for your gut biome. All right? By improving your gut biome, you're going to improve your skin. But you're also going to improve your metabolism. You're going to improve the health of your liver and your brain, the health of your gut. You're going to reduce leaky gut syndrome, which will reduce allergies. Also, by improving your gut biome, you're going to be able to absorb your nutrients. You're going to be able to get rid of that brain fog. You're going to be able to sleep better. And by sleeping better, you're consolidating memory, detoxifying your central nervous system. A lot of people are like going, improving your gut actually helps your brain? Yeah. Amazing how that works. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is the veggie cap version of the probiotics. You can also get the powdered version on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, let's listen into Chinese tanker reportedly passed U.S. Hormuz blockade. This is CNN.
Get the same trusted Lysol disinfection that has a scent that'll make you move. Effortlessly kill 99.9%.
The United States started its naval blockade yesterday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're around 17 hours in. And basically, a lot of the traffic, the little trickle we've seen since the start of the war, has come to a screeching halt, apart from one incident. And this is really interesting because this is a Chinese-owned vessel. It's now said to have tested the U.S. naval blockade because it has passed through the Strait of Hormuz. Let's take you through this. This is a rich sari. This is a tanker said to be carrying methanol. It started moving from Sharjah here in the UAE. Remember, a lot of these vessels turn off the AIS transponders. You don't really know the origin of which port that they moved from. Starting to move towards Hesham and Larak Islands, then starts aborting mission, moves back, and then starts to take that route once again, passing through the strait in the early hours of this morning. Now, this is a tanker that has been sanctioned since March 2023 by the U.S. Treasury Department because it has links to Iran. Now, from what we understand from experts, this tanker was able to move through completely unfazed by the U.S. naval blockade. So we don't know what exactly transpired and how the United States is enforcing this blockade. But this is really interesting to see this tanker that has links to Iran, that has been sanctioned by the United States, being able to move through the Strait of Hormuz at this time. A lot of the shippers are very reticent to even make the voyage. Number one, they're worried about having to coordinate directly with the Iranians. And then number two, what will they face when they hit the U.S. naval blockade? A lot of the shippers believe that this is a double dilemma in terms of negotiating with both sides. From what we know right now, that the United States is doing this naval blockade to perhaps start negotiations to force Iran to the negotiating table. You'll remember that a lot of the revenues that Iran is getting right now at the start of this war had to do with the toll that they were charging these shippers, Rosemary, and then importantly, the Iranian oil that was being sold. And if you look at some of the tanker traffic since the start of the war, it has been dominated by Iranian-linked vessels and also vessels that are friendly to Iran. So the United States and President Trump has been very clear about this, that any vessels, any shippers that have paid that toll fee could face indictment. And you have an interesting bar chart here showing just how much the traffic plummeted since the start of the war. And you've seen a trickle throughout the over 40 days that we've been facing this conflict. In total, 453 vessels have transited the strait since February 28th. And importantly, just to give you a bit of a perspective, normally 130 vessels pass through the straits on a daily basis. Richard Mead is the editor-in-chief of Lloyd's List Intelligence, and he's with us now live from London. Richard, good to see you. You and I have been talking consistently since the start of the war, and there's been really interesting developments, specifically over the past few hours. After the U.S. naval blockade came into effect, we saw one Chinese-linked tanker that was sanctioned by the United States since 2023 transiting through the strait after initially had backed out and then moved through once again. What do we know about the rich sari and whether it was challenged by the U.S. Navy?
Well, at the moment, we know very little. It's still moving, which suggests that it hasn't been challenged by the US. To be clear, we're not entirely sure that this was laden with Iranian crude. It's been used as floating storage for a while. It entered back into the Gulf about 10 to 12 days ago, from memory. And then it was heading out of the Gulf this weekend and did a bit of a U-turn at the point that Donald Trump announced the blockade. It then made a break for it last night and has exited. Now, this is, as you say, a sanctioned, falsely flagged ship. It is nominally fraudulently flagged to Malawi, but we know it's a fraud. this probably would be a target, but it seems to have got out. We've also got a number of other shadow fleet tankers, one of which is sanctioned, heading in. So it's going to be interesting to see how the US responds to this. But right now, the vast majority of shipping is not moving on either side.
Yeah, so give me a sense of what shippers are telling you. There's a lot of confusion about who to negotiate with. On the Iranian side, it's been very clear, coordinate directly with Iranian forces. Now you've got the US naval blockade. Is there any appetite to move through the Straits, even if vessels are not at any Iranian ports or Iranian territorial waters?
Right now, no. And I keep telling you, uncertainty is reigning across the shipping industry.
Yeah.
That goes in peaks and troughs. If you'd asked me just before the weekend, I would have told you that there were at least half a dozen ship owners that were preparing their ships to move out. And we did see probably the busiest period of activity in terms of transits through the Strait over the weekend. Around 30 ships transited. The shutters then came down. And as far as I can tell from most mainstream ship owners with their tankers still inside the Gulf, absolutely no appetite to move right now until they get some clarity. For those that were looking to get in, they are again waiting to see what happens over the next few hours. You've got a double blockade essentially. You've got the US essentially blockading Iranian-linked tankers, and then you've got the existing restrictions and threats. And if you do engage with the Iranians, are the US going to get you, and vice versa? The shipping industry is stuck in the middle right now.
Yeah,
At Car and Driver, we tackle the hard-hitting questions. Can a car keep clicking on the first try every time? Does the parking camera catch what you don't? Will the back seat survive soccer season and snack time? Because somebody's got to find out. Car and Driver, the key to every car.
Build on-brand assets in no time with Canva's AI-powered design generator. Simply type an idea and watch it appear.
Yeah, I also, was looking at marine traffic data, and in total, since the war began, there are around 450 vessels that have been able to transit through the Strait of Hormuz, keeping in mind that it's usually 130 vessels per day. The big question now becomes, how many of these vessels paid a toll to Iran, given that President Trump has said any vessel and any shipper that has paid will be indicted? What data do we have on who actually paid Iran directly?
Very little direct evidence, and that's deliberately so. I think everybody was very nervous about the tolls. Essentially, the money that was being paid was going directly to the IRGC, which is designated as a terrorist organization by certainly the US and the EU. No Western shipowner is going to want a paper record of that, and we know that settlement was being done in yuan or crypto. So I think probably there's a few nervous ship owners that we know to have paid. But I would stress that the vast majority probably haven't paid. I think you're looking at a three-tier system. There's the Iranian ships themselves. Obviously, they're not charging their own ships to go through. There's the ones that got through with diplomatic agreements. So the Indian government has been absolutely clear that they definitely did not pay for any of their tankers to get out. And there are similar agreements with lots of other countries. There are a small amount that we know to have settled at least a fee. Now, in some cases, that's a large fee, around $2 million for a couple of tankers that we know about. In some cases, this was being passed off as an administration cost, more in the tune of around $150,000 to $200,000. So I think probably there's going to be a few nervous questions as to how some of these ships got out, but that's for tomorrow. Right now, it's a question of what happens immediately and how we get the vessels moving.
Yeah, President Trump wants to see the Strait opening up. Do you think that putting in a US blockade is going to have that effect?
It's a little bit early to tell, I think, as I say, right now, nothing is moving. So I think to that extent, it is having an impact. But we know that there's a couple of ships heading in westbound. We don't know whether they're going to try to get into Iranian ports. We've just seen that there's one heading eastbound using what we call a zombie number. These are essentially tankers using identification of ships that have been scrapped years ago, trying to falsely give themselves an identity. Will be interesting to see whether the US Navy intercepts any of this. I think we're really now just waiting to see what the actual action is and the enforcement strategy from the US side.
All right, Richard Mead, really great to have you with us.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver toothpaste. All right. There you go. This has no fluoride. This will help to neutralize, super important during the cold season, but you should be using this toothpaste every day. It'll whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help with the health of your gum line, reduce inflammation at the gum line, and with good oral hygiene, you can help improve your cardiovascular health and your valvular health. Super important, especially when you're older. Take it, use this every day, get a few tubes of this for your household. This is the best toothpaste that you're going to be able to get. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but it works better. And get the structural nano silver gels. You can get it in the tube form or the quick dispenser form. Have some at work, have some at home. You never know when you need it. It's dual purpose. You can use it as a daily skincare. You can help heal a wound quicker, like a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn. And if you're not feeling well because of the cold season, or someone around you is not feeling well because of the cold season, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your nose, lightly coat your nostrils. They'll stay active for 5.5 hours. So please go to my store. It's dual purpose. Get the structural nano silver gels. And if you have arthritis and you need some relief from the pain, get the super strong relief. This will also help with tension headaches. You just apply it topically to your forehead, your temples, and your shoulder, neck muscles, and it'll help to relieve that tension headache. If you have a pulled muscle, apply it on the muscle. It'll relieve the pain within 90 seconds. If you have a sprain, you can use this also. It's a great product. Please go to my store and get the super strong relief. All right, let's listen into CNBC talking to Hassett.
I think that they've got amongst the highest interest rates on earth, and we've got core inflation running around 0.2. If you look at the 6 months average of core, it's the lowest it's been since the Biden inflation began. And so I think there's a lot less pressure on the Fed to lift for sure. And I think that with the productivity boom that's happening, there's plenty of room for them to normalize rates and get them back to about where they belong.
The other news that came out this morning on the economy was the IMF downgraded its global growth forecasts, and they see bigger hits in places like Germany and the UK than in the US. But the US growth forecast was downgraded as well to just above 2%. I wonder if you agree with the assessment that the war is going to hurt the economy, because before the war they said that they were going to upgrade forecasts.
Well, I think that I disagree with the forecast for America. The fact is that our economy is really running on all cylinders, and you're seeing that with the earnings reports that you've been reporting on today, with the wage gains and income gains for ordinary workers, the big tax refunds that are coming because of no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. All of those things are big positives for the U.S., as is the case that we're the world's largest oil producer. So while it's very frustrating to go to the pump and see what the price of gasoline looks like, the benefit for oil producers and workers in those industries is significant enough that the GDP effect in the U.S. is much smaller than anything that you would see if you look at, say, an Asian economy or even in the U.K., where because of their Green New Deal type policies, they more or less stopped producing oil. And so I think the U.S. is insured against the significant downside because we produce so much oil.
Yeah, and that's reflected there as well. And we'll leave it there, but obviously we'll continue the discussion with you. Thank you for taking the time today. Good to see you, Kevin Hassett from the White House. And tomorrow we will hear from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent along with other top CEOs at CNBC's Invest in America Forum here in Washington, D.C. You can tune in here or CNBC.com for the highlights as they happen. We're excited to bring all of that to you from D.C. tomorrow. David.
Thank you, Sarah. Still to come right here, the CEO of IonQ, fresh off a new award from the Department of Defense. That stock is up as you see double digits. We're back.
Trend Tracker is sponsored by CME Group.
So we're going to go back to Bloomberg here.
sort of, mince no words about, in his words, it being stupid for Tesla to sort of bring cars to market that are lower priced, because in his mind, every day is going to be the day that Tesla sort of flips a switch and is able to render its cars capable of driving themselves. I think regulators are extremely skeptical of that, in part because, those days keep, coming and going without that capability really being ready to where, people behind the wheel can actually tune out and not pay attention to the system that Tesla sells as full self-driving, which just has not lived up to the name yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's two components to that, right? The fact that a switch could be flipped on that and whether regulators would allow it. Technologically, whether we're there yet and whether the regulators have given that the okay. Do consumers want that?
And that's a great question too. I think, some consumers absolutely, and you will see.
I don't think so, because it's going to be so costly that people would rather drive than have all this extra tech in their car. I think actually less tech is going to be the trend, not more tech. I think people are going to realize spending $100,000 for a vehicle that'll drive itself is not worth it, especially when it's not as robust and the vehicle longevity isn't there. So people are going to say, why do you need all this tech? Really? Do you really need the iPhone that you have? You only need a fraction of what the iPhone provides. You don't need it. There's going to be a point in time where people will want less tech. There's going to be a point in time where it's about minimalism with some level of luxury instead of minimalism with no luxury. But to get there, to get that minimalism with some luxury, you can't be overburdened with purchasing things that are over-teched out. And our society, do you really need all this tech in a car? You don't. It's totally unnecessary. Absolutely, totally unnecessary. But we'll see what happens. But I think that there's going to be a feedback loop because of the cost of these vehicles. The cost of these vehicles is because of all this tech that's in it. You take that out, you radically change the cost of the vehicle. You can't even buy a baseline model without having it over-teched out. All right, let's see here. All right, Cash Jordan. No, let's not do Cash Jordan. It's a shame because I like some of these videos that this Glenn Dyson, or Dyson, I think it's Dyson. Dyson, does, but his videos are too damn long for me to critique it for the show. Let's see here. Let's listen to Victor Hansen talk about this, what's going on with the battle between Trump and the alt-right alternative news.
Some potty mouth people here, Victor. This is Donald Trump. Well, there's some podcasters of infamous being potty mouth. So here's the headline: Trump goes off on nut jobs. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace O, and Alex Jones over Iran war criticism. I think this is from the New York Post. President Trump lashed out at 4 right-wing critics of the Iran war. This was Thursday, 2 days ago from when we're talking, describing them as nut jobs and losers who will say anything for attention. I know why Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace O, and Alex Jones have been all been fighting me for years, especially by the fact that they think it is wonderful for Iran, the number one state sponsor of terror, to have a nuclear weapon because they have one thing in common: low IQs. This is, he's writing this on Truth Social. They're stupid people. They know it. Their families know it. And everyone else knows it too, the president age. Look at their past. Look at the record. They don't have what it takes, and they never did. Mamma mia.
I don't know about Alex. I don't know Alex Jones. I've only met Candace Owen once, but I've been on Tucker's show quite a lot, and I've been on Megan's show quite a lot. They're not low IQ people. But what I don't understand about them is this, and I like them both personally. I don't know what precipitated this. I see Tucker had a little earlier turnabout because in the bombing last summer, he said it was going to cause World War III, but we learned afterwards that he'd been calling Trump various times. He was back on good terms. So when this other strike hit,
the bottom line
they
is
got
this.
very angry.
The bottom line is this: they're opportunity. They're taking the situation in the news and playing up the opportunity so they can accrete clicks, that they can accrete followers, they can get more ad revenue. It's all about the money. And this is the problem that I have with Tucker. Where is the ethics? Where's the virtue? Where's your theoretical foundation of why you are the way you are? I don't see it. The guy is manufactured. He's manufactured. Blue blood, gets on CNN, doesn't finish college. He's considered a pundit for the conservative movement with his bow tie. Fast forward to now, and now he's Duck Dynasty. He's some sort of hunter, some fisherman. Bullshit.
And Megan gave a long excursus that she was sick. She had expletive, that I watched that clip. It was F this and SH this. But she was very angry at Trump's existential threat to civilization. But I think
Trump's term, existential threat. See, you got to remember, Megyn Kelly's living high on the hog now. She's got a lot of money coming in. She's more popular with her podcast than she was on Fox News. Now think about this for a sec. She's living high on the hog. She needs to keep the money coming in. She can't let that go down. And there is a huge base out there that is America First pacifist that listens to her. Okay? So she's playing up to her base like she's always done. So she's fake. She's not about virtue. She's not about something that she really believes in, because she tosses in the wind based on wherever the money is. Tucker's the same way. He's the same way. So what's happening is that, like I said, these individuals, especially in the ultra left in American society, are going to have they're going to eat themselves. They're going to the tail is being eaten, right? Because of what was happening with the protests going on after October 7th of 2023. All right, they were aligning with terrorists. They were aligning with Hezbollah and Hamas. All right? Well, now you have the ultra-right doing something very similar. The ultra-right is literally aligning with keeping the Iranian regime afloat, continuing it on, saying that going in and trying to overthrow the theocratic regime in the IRGC is bad. It's going to cause World War III. Well, it's going to be a lot worse if we don't take the lessons learned from Sharon. Sharon regretted not killing Arafat on the battlefield. He could have killed him, I think it was 1968, on the battlefield. He let him go. And Sharon regretted it. Now, Sharon ended up being the prime minister of Israel and ended up having a stroke and then he was in a coma for a very long time. But if he acted instead of being fearful, he would have prevented the PLO and a lot of the terrorism that took place in the 70s, the 80s, and early 90s. So if we let our foreign policy to be followed by the edicts of Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, we are kicking the can down the road, and it's going to be a lot worse when Iran does have a nuclear weapon or when Iran does have biological warfare. What are we going to do then? It's relatively easy to do it now. Now, other presidents could have done it, but were afraid. Some presidents, even Carter, wanted to do something, but didn't really have the military to go all out. Our special forces now is far better than the special forces of the 1970s. They have better equipment, they're better trained, they're more funded. The smart technologies that we have now, all of that has come into fruition, and with better command structure, better commanding of that capability we have now than the 1970s. We didn't have that. So that's part of the reason why Carter failed. Carter tried, but it failed. So we're in a situation where we got the right president, we have the right technology, we have the right training. It's the perfect opportunity geopolitically to do. But it's beyond just Iran. This is a major chess game with China. The Chinese are extremely worried about U.S. hegemonic power, especially in the Indo-Pacific. And the Chinese want to maintain the 9-dash line for navigation and for energy rights, because there's quite a bit of energy in that region of the 9-dash line. The problem is that all these different countries are saying that's part of their economic zone. And the Chinese are saying, this is our inheritance. We need to have it. And the United States can block energy, natural gas and oil flows to China from the Middle East directly by cutting off the Strait of Hormuz, but also with our hegemonic power in the Indo-Pacific, if we wanted to. So the reason why the Chinese ship was able to get through the blockade was to signal to China that we are not at war with them, but we could chokehold them. And this is a grand strategy with China's expansion with the first and second island chains. So if we listen to Tucker, if we listen to Megyn Kelly, then what we are actually doing is weakening our hegemonic power against China. Iran has to be in our orbit, not China's orbit. So in essence, I agree with Trump. They are low IQ because this is a chess game against China, more so than Iran. Now that's from an international geopolitical perspective. There's a metaphysical issue here. The United States is going to get cursed if we don't kill negative Esau. Negative Esau, a big part of it, is the Ayatollah and the IRGC and the terror that is propagating from Iran, the funding of the terror. Once we take over that, once the seculars within Iran can have self-governance, the terror in that region is going to radically diminish. You're going to have some individual cells that do the terror, but it's not going to be coordinated and financed as well as it used to be by taking out Iran. So if we listen to Tucker and Megyn Kelly, they're kicking the can down the road and allowing it to happen. So should we listen to Megyn Kelly and Tucker? Should we listen to the America First pacifists? Or should we actually take the opportunity, one, to expand our hegemonic power against China and be able to stop 50 years of terrorism that's been taking place from Iran? Just under 50 years, 47. Most of Gen X, their whole life has been under the terror of Iran. And there's not one generation that has fought in the Middle East more than Gen X. Not the millennials, not the baby boomers. The one that has put in more of this dealing with the terrorism in the Middle East has been Gen X. So it is important. Tucker and Megyn are Gen X. They should know better. But what it is they pick money over virtue. They pick money over doing the right thing. They pick money for themselves than making a better world for everyone. And this is the reason why Tucker and Megyn need to lose their audience. Because to prove my point, if they lost their audience, if they lost a large portion of their audience, their tune would change. If they were really based on some sort of virtue and ethics with their position, they would not change. Because the virtue and their ethics is hollow. It's hollow. There's no foundation there. You can tell when someone is trying to do the right thing. Sometimes they're not successful, but you can see that they keep on trying and trying and trying and trying. But the America First pacifist policy is only going to make things worse. It's going to make things worse for us in terms of the Indo-Pacific, and it's going to make things worse in terms of Islamic terror in the world. Do we want Tucker and Megyn policy where it's about egoism? Or should we pursue something that has virtue?
People, I think, and Tucker said it was, satanic or something on Easter to do that. No one of their caliber would believe that Trump was going to wipe out the entire civilization of Iran.
That's just my last point. My last point on this particular subject here. Trump meant taking away modern society. Modern society is ability to move around, so you take out their bridges. Another part of modern society is electrification. If you don't have electricity, you're in the 1600s. Everything breaks down in society. Especially, just think about not having electricity for 2 weeks. Everything in modern society starts to break down. Now imagine having it like that for months or years. That's what Trump meant.
That is true, because he said help was on the way to the Iranian people. And as I said with Sammy, if you go back all of our wars, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War I, the Serbian misadventure, the Libyan fiasco, We hit dual-use targets. We took out civilian ships, port facilities, and we bombed the grid into zero blackouts in Belgrade. 1.5 people, no electricity. We destroyed every bridge on the Danube. First Gulf War, Saddam didn't have any infrastructure. TV, radio, power, fuel, you name it, we wiped it out. So Trump never has done that. He's taken out one bridge. And the reason he hasn't done that, last time when he bombed for 24 hours, is he thinks he wants a dividend of this campaign to end and be a revolt of the people. He said that. So when he said their civilization is going to end, it was a sloppy use of nouns. What he meant was this radical Shia Islamic regime, culture, civilization is going to be ended.
Right.
The civilization that is.
And this falls in line with what I've been saying for 2 years. 2 years. Negative Esau must die. That is a large part of that negative Esau is this issue with Iran. Now, it's not me just coming up with this idea. This has been written down. The scholars know this for thousands of years. There is a great battle between Jacob and Esau, the soul root. Countries are based on soul roots because all of human history is based on a fib sequence. So what happened at the individual level in the Bible is also happening at a societal level now. Esau must die.
People, that's what he meant. He should have said that. But what he does shows you what he means. Megyn and Tucker would have had a good case if this.
And this is the reason why. This is the reason why Tucker and Megyn, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, and all the other dipshits that are America First, pacifists, are getting it wrong. They don't see it. They're not smart enough to know this. They're not smart enough to see what other people are seeing. I'm not the only one that's seeing this. So the ones that are really picking up pattern recognition and on the situation that we're really in, it's not the dipshits from America First pacifist movement. So Trump's not wrong on this. Megyn and Tucker are low IQ in terms of pattern recognition of the situation that we're in. Now, he's not eloquent. I'm pretty sure he probably hasn't read a book from cover to cover for more than 20 years. But he gets it. He gets it. He is the right person for the situation. And as long as other groups don't try to stop him, either in the deep state or other groups, don't try to stop him, especially that are aligned to the America First pacifist movement, we will succeed. But if we don't, if he doesn't do this, do you think that blessing that he had, where that bullet just missed his ear, do you think that was just for him? Or do you think that was for something bigger for the world? I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, think about that for a second. He is the right person. He been given a blessing. He's been given, this is your chance to move mankind in the right direction. He fails. If we as a country fail because of the America First pacifism, we will be cursed. And I'll give you the date that it happens on. It's going to happen on September 11th, 2026. The curse is going to start, and it's going to start running rampant within the society all the way through October of 2027. So September 11th, all the way to the first week of October 2027. We have to do this right. And everyone in this world, everyone, the ones that are America First pacifists, even people that are more gung-ho of destroying the Shia theocracy in Iran, we're all at fault. Everyone in this world's at fault. But we have an opportunity to set in motion a better future for generations. And the Ayatollah, this theocratic regime, must fall. Must fall.
Had been hitting power plants. He'd been hitting schools. He'd been hitting water plants. He'd been hitting solar, all of that. And then he said, I'm going to just take it out. But he hadn't. He didn't want to because he's on the side of the Iranian people, that 93 million people that he feels are enslaved by this corrupt, theocratic, interloping civilization that was a hiatus and interruption in Persian history. Okay. So I don't understand that. So that means to me that they were angry about the MAGA, but Trump never said he wasn't going to use force. I was on Meghan's show shortly after the summer bombing, and she thought that was great. And she was correct. It was to nullify at that point what we thought were all of its nuclear potential. So, and then when you look at what he's done, Soleimani, Baghdadi, bombed ISIS, took out Wagner Group, got rid of Maduro, bombed last summer, and bombed. They all have one thing in common. This is longer. And what's the thing in common? Except for Maduro, there's no boots on the ground. There's no door-to-door fighting in Fallujah on the enemy's terms. There's no Helmand province going into villages and never knowing who's going to shoot you, friend or foe, or green on green, or whatever we want to call it, soldiers on the Afghan army shooting us. There's none of that. It's an air campaign. And yes, it is now getting close to 40 days, if not beyond. But that's not a war. That's not 20 years in Afghanistan. That's not 8 in Iraq. That's not even 72 days in Serbia. It's about what the first Gulf War, I think, was 42. So they know it's not a forever or endless war. It's a Jacksonian preemptive deterrent act so that these they don't have nuclear tip missiles pointed at the West. And as we said before, they're not sending billions of dollars to these Ring of Fire or Arab terrorist proxies, Hezbollah, Houthis, and Hamas. And they're not killing Americans as they've done for 47 years, right? And they're not trying to assassinate presidents and Secretary of States. So it was long overdue, but what I'm getting at is, finally, is they know that. So then my next question to them is, what's the alternative? We're having midterms and we're going to have so you're not going to vote for this man because he used force in a way that contradicts, in your belief, the forever bans on forever wars. So you are going to turn over by your absence or your lack of advocacy. You're going to see the Democrats win to punish Trump, to punish MAGA. So all the things that you fought for, Tucker, Meghan, Alex Jones, I guess, even Candace, closed border, we've deported over 500,000 people in just a year and a half, and another 1.5 million have self-deported. Crime is at an all-time low. He's rebuilding the military. We're the greatest producer of gas and oil in history. He's the first president that's brave enough to take on DEI, and he's doing a great job. He's the first person to take on the insanity in higher education. So what I'm getting at is he's done 85% of what they want. That's Meghan's agenda. That's Tucker's agenda. That's Candace's agenda. But on this one topic, it's so egregious, apparently it not only nullifies all of that other, but from what I understand, they're gone.
Because the America First pacifists are absolutists. just as crazy as the ultra-liberal. And our society is at a crossroads. We have to stop this division in this country. If we don't, we will lose. We will lose our prosperity. Now, what is written down more than 2,000 years ago, I would think takes precedence over Tucker Carlson's opinion. What was written more than 2,000 years ago supersedes Megyn Kelly's opinion.
Oh, they're off. They're done. Yeah. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a Kamala type of candidate or her. Yeah. And the alternative is DEI in your face, revenge DEI, revenge open.
Think about that. America First pacifists, absolutists, will give the House, maybe even the Senate, to the Democratic Party, which will definitely make Trump's administration's power radically diminished. He's not going to be able to do much in his last 2 years. And so they made it worse. They made it worse because why? Why did they do this? Because they had virtue? No. Because they had some sort of moral high ground? No. Because of money. Because they wanted more ad revenue, because they were playing to the base of their audience. And this is the reason why I keep on asking the question, 80% of the people in the United States, do they really deserve the freedoms that they have? And the answer is no. 20% of the country moves forward. 20% of the people in the country is what moves the country forward. 80% is just riding on the coattails of the 20%. 80%. 80% of the country doesn't deserve the freedoms they have. Now, thank God there are 20% out there that are actually getting the job done. But Megyn Kelly, Tucker, America First pacifism isn't the 20%. Trust me on this. Because, there's an awful lot of people on the America First agenda, America First pacifist agenda, because there's two America First. There's America First expansionism and there's America First pacifism. Tucker Carlson is part of the America First pacifism. They don't want to get anything done in the geopolitical world. They don't want to move forward. They want to do everything domestic. That's stupid. You got to be walking and chewing gum at the same time, Tucker. So their America First pacifism is going to make things worse. They're going to let in the Democrats, and then all of a sudden you got more postmodernism, more DEI, more multicultural, more illegal immigration, more erosion of your property. Thank you, Megyn. Thank you, Tucker, because you're so smart. This is what Trump meant. You're stupid. Because you think you're so smart, you end up doing stupid things. You break it. Because you thought you were so smart and you had virtue and then you're going to be a pacifist. Amazing. But they were willing to give up virtue. They were willing to give up doing the right thing for money. For money. Placating to the 80% that don't even deserve the freedoms they have. Let's listen to Fox News. Iran issues stark retaliation threat. No part will be safe. 6 minutes ago. Still, Megyn, you think we're supposed to be placating to the Shias, the Shia Islamic regime? I don't think so. I don't think so. Oh, everything is run by, some grand conspiracy. A lot of these 80%ers, they're aligned with the America First agenda, pacifism, or, the ultra left. I don't know how much. I would say maybe 50%, maybe 50% of the 80% is, crazy right wing, and the other 50% are crazy left wing. But they think that there's these grand conspiracies. It's like the secret societies are ruling the world and blah blah. Maybe it's a little bit more chaotic than that. Maybe. But even if they were right that there were some sort of secret societies that are running the world, the very foundation of our country was based on a secret society. The Freemasons. Our rule of government, our architecture, the verbiage in the Constitution, in the Declaration of Independence, that's all Freemason. All of it. So you have all these America First pacifists that think secret societies and lizard people and blah, blah, blah. So do they deserve the freedoms that they have? Do they? No. No, they don't. They weren't even willing to fight for their freedoms during the COVID era. They weren't even willing to fight for their freedoms when infant formula wasn't available in 2021 and part of 2022. Did the mothers protest that? No. Because of failed policy by Biden? When the mothers don't even fight for their own kids, does the mothers deserve freedom? See what I mean? 80% of the population are dipshits.
Leader in this space, it doesn't seem like it'd be an issue, but you never know. I think what's interesting about all of this is while this does kind of help Amazon accelerate its ambitions to be a big leader in satellite, SpaceX still, light years ahead of it, has way more satellites in orbit. Amazon hasn't been able to launch as many as SpaceX, so that will be something else that it has to do.
And Paul, I was just noticing that Globalstar CEO is Paul Jacobs, the former CEO of Qualcomm.
Ah, very good. Okay. So, Amazon does have this low Earth orbit satellite network, Amazon Leo.
Exactly.
But that, I don't hear much about that.
It's not really in use yet. They're still kind of literally getting it off the ground. And they're hoping that by 2028, especially after this deal, they will be able to launch a direct-to-device service, which is like having a cell phone tower up in space, and it basically means, consumers, companies would be able to get voice, text, data without having to use a cell tower, but by using their satellite.
All right. I'm going to play this clip by Fox News about this morning from Iran. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the digestive enzyme complex. This will help the health of your pancreas. A lot of people don't realize once you turn about age 40, your pancreas doesn't function as well. I don't care how healthy you are. This will help to digest the proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. Protein, carbohydrates, and lipids, and allow you to absorb those nutrients. So you need to reduce the load on your pancreas and allow for proper absorption of your food. Take the digestive enzyme complex. Super important. And it has bromelain, so it breaks up clots. And it has the proteolytic enzymes to break up glycoproteins. That's really important during the cold season. That's the reason why I told you to take it in 2020. But then you have other doctors out there that are starting to say, well, just take bromelain to break up clots. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Olive leaf extract. Olive leaf extract is dual purpose. It's going to bring down inflammation, and it's going to help you to control your lipid profile. It's going to help with your cardiovascular health. It's also going to help with your immune system. Super important. And with better cardiovascular health, you will improve your brain function. Why? Because you have better brain flow to your hippocampus. Collagen. Collagen is designed to remodel your joints either because you have a sports injury or you have arthritis. All right? Now, what this will do is remodel the cartilage and also remodel the cushioning of the joint. It will block certain enzymes that are tied to eroding the joint. So you want to block those. It will also block enzymes that cause the inflammation and the pain from that inflammation. So if you want to improve your joint health, if you want to help to remodel those joints because of arthritis or a sports injury, take the collagen. Take it every day. Stack it with the collagen powder that I have. All right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. All right, let's listen to Fox News.
Today is day 2 of the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, and President Trump warns that any Iranian ships challenging it will be eliminated. Matt Finn is live in Dubai with the very latest for us. Matt?
Good morning, Ainsley. So far, no reports of any major incidents or confrontations out on the Persian Gulf behind me where that American blockade is happening. Now, Fox's Lauren Simonetti reports that a Chinese-owned ship passed through the Strait of Hormuz today with the U.S. blockade in place. It's an oil and chemicals tanker that was turned back yesterday, the first day of the blockade, but got through today with success. Now, this tracks with what the president and CENTCOM is saying, which is that the entire Persian Gulf is not blocked. Rather, the U.S. is preventing ships from entering or exiting Iranian ports. An Iranian military spokesperson has been threatening possible retaliation for all this, writing, "If the security of Iranian ports is threatened, no port in the Gulf or the Sea of Oman will be safe." The latest report this morning from the International Energy Agency says continued attacks on energy infrastructure here in the Middle East and ongoing restrictions to tanker movements throughout the Strait of Hormuz has led to the largest fuel disruption in history. Initially, these deep cuts in oil came from the Middle East, had a huge impact on sectors like jet fuel. But if things remain as is, this new report says scarcity and higher prices will persist. Ainsley?
Okay, thank you, Matt. Experts are warning that gas prices are likely to jump up again this week as the U.S. blockade on the Strait of Hormuz does go into effect. And oil prices nearly hit $100 a barrel. Vice President J.D. Vance says he understands Americans are feeling pain at the pump.
Well, you know, the president said, Brett, that yes, gas prices are higher. Yes, energy prices are higher. First of all,
going down. Energy's going down.
Where we've never had the terrible energy prices that we had of the last administration. So we come at this from a position of strength. But Brett, absolutely, we know the American people are hurting. That's why that we're negotiating so aggressively to try to get the energy prices to come down. We're going to keep on working at it. I do think that we're at a place where we've accomplished our objectives.
And joining me now is Charles Payne, host of Making Money on Fox Business. We need to make some money to pay for the gas, right?
We have to make some money, absolutely, yeah.
Thanks
But, I got to tell you, yesterday oil went up to 105 West Texas Intermediate, closed under 100, 97 today. You're going to see them come down really a lot. And by the end of the year, they could be at around $72 a barrel, and I think maybe $3 a gallon. So this thing wraps up within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think this will be a flash, cost spike that was worth it because we're going to get something I call the peace dividend. That's going to be a multi-decade, great Pax Americana for all of the world.
So you think it's going to go down? Because the president, you heard him on the radio show over the weekend, he said, I don't know, it might not by the time midterms. In fact, we have that soundbite, and I'll get your reaction on the other side.
It's $93 a barrel.
It could be the same or maybe a little bit higher, but it should be around the same. I think this won't be that much longer.
Yeah, I think he's being conservative, again, if this wraps up in a couple of weeks, I'm
I'm saying oil prices will be around 73 at the end of the year, and gasoline $3.10.
How does it wrap up?
I agree with that.
What do? We have to go in and get the enriched uranium and then it's over?
Yeah, well, it seems like they were really close, very close in this last round, and there's a lot. Iran is very eager. I know so many people out there rooting against America. Unfortunately, a lot of American media and so forth, but we have just absolutely crushed them. And the idea you have a little bit of guerrilla warfare, that kind of thing, as your final stands. There's this old meme with a door with a lock and a Cheeto holding it in. That's what they're down to right now. Listen, we like to resolve it. Everyone liked to resolve it. But now with this blockade, the economic damage on top of what's already happened to Iran, they can't sustain it.
It's costing Iran $435 million per day.
Right.
Here in America, average gas prices, the current price today, $4.11. Last week it was $4.14. And last month, it was $3.67.
Gasoline prices, though, and J.D. Vance referenced this, and he didn't want to gloat, obviously, because they're up now, but they come down dramatically since the inauguration, dramatically. So we're bouncing back to an area where we were, and obviously we're nowhere close to the peaks of the Biden administration. But people like the fact that they were coming down because we don't want this to harm all the good things that are happening, from the big beautiful bill and all the tax cuts and all those things, which already were evident, then certain economic data like manufacturing data, factory jobs, onshoring. We've got an economic juggernaut. We don't want something like this to disrupt it.
How does this affect our grocery prices?
It affects it, especially with diesel, being used to transport items. I will say the one silver lining right now is nat gas. So nat gas is considered the energy source of the industrial America. And right now, nat gas is down 20% since the Iran conflict began. So again, all these data centers we're building, all these factories we're building, all the things that you need to really get the economy going. We don't see it. It's not sexy, but it's very powerful.
Okay, and you are hosting a town hall on Fox Business.
I can't wait tomorrow. It's about space, and the timing could not be more perfect, right? Obviously, Artemis. We have the SpaceX IPO. I love space for, you probably grew up just loving space, right? The money that's being made right now, I made people more money in my life last year. I think I'm going to surpass that this year already with the ideas I've shared with my own subscribers for my business on the show. And I'm going to talk about how we're going to make a lot of money from outer space over the next year to 5 years. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Well, we'll have to tune in.
It's going to be fun too. A couple of fun things as well.
That's the thing. Our nation, the soul of the United States, is about exploration, going to the frontier. That takes engineers, it takes entrepreneurs, it takes people that have guts, the right stuff, right? Not pacifists, not people that are worried and scared. That's America. Not Tucker, not Megyn Kelly, not the potosphere. Taking risks and exploring, engineering, moving forward. That's us. That's the United States. It's emblematic in our flag. We have all these stars on a blue background. What do you think that blue background is? It's the sky. What do you think those stars represent? Our destiny. So Megyn and Tucker, they're not part of that. They're not of that ethos. It's amazing. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Support capitalism. Go to my store. Get the Max 35 or the Cleanse. All right? This is 30 parts per million. Max 35 is 35 parts per million. Take a teaspoon a day. Either one, whichever one you want. Take a teaspoon a day, swish in your mouth. Gargle about 20 seconds and swallow. What this will do is improve the health of your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, maintain your mucosal barrier, help the health of your epithelial cells, and it will help to boost up your innate immune system. It will neutralize. That's super important during the cold season. And if you're not feeling well or someone around you is not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day. And then once everything's all clear, then go back to your maintenance dose of a teaspoon a day. I've been doing this protocol for more than 6 years, every day. Every day. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Max 35, and a great way to stack Max 35 or Cleanse is to stack it with C60. That's going to help to soak up the free radicals. Take the turmeric, ashwagandha, lignans. That's going to help to bring down inflammation, help to boost up your immune system, and help with your cardiovascular system. And stack it with the Boomer Boost. That's going to rev up your energy levels, then your metabolism, help with your cardiovascular health, your musculature, your brain function. Also, stack it with the multivitamin that's easy to digest that I have on my store, and the probiotics. That's a very powerful stack to slow down the aging process. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. That's the end of my broadcast. Thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it. But I come from a line of thought that the United States is an exploring country that's been blessed. It's been blessed because of the entrepreneurship, the risk-taking, and this idea of exploration. As long as we do the right thing, we'll maintain that blessing. But it is a fact, especially in modern times of this century, the 21st century, 80% of the population is lazy. 80% of the population is not doing what they should be doing to make the country better. That's on the Republican side and the Democratic side. That's on the conservative side. That's on also the liberal side. Both sides are wrong. There's only 20% that actually are moving the society forward. Be one of them. Look in the mirror and say, you're part of the problem and how you can make it better, how to make it better. Make your society better. Take extreme ownership and move forward. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.